Good morning. Directors, could you please take your seat? Okay. Good morning and welcome to our January 2018 board meeting. I would like to call this meeting to order. We have a quorum, and I would now like us to please rise and for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is the media present? No. Okay, maybe they'll watch the video. I need a motion to approve the agenda. Second?
Second.
Any comments or things to say?
Yes, I would like, there's a couple of corrections on agenda item 13 and 13B. There were some typo errors where they missed up references to alteration standard. And you can find those corrections sitting over on the table by where the coffee is. All of you should have a copy of that in front of you here on the board. So, and thank you, Bert Mom, for pointing those out.
We know.
And thank you, Cheryl and Kurt
And Eve.
Wyman and Eve for getting that corrected for this meeting. Thank you.
And we know at least Bert reads the entire thing before the meeting. Thank you, Bert.
Thank you, Bert.
We need a motion to approve the minutes from the December 19th open session.
So move.
Second? Did I not have us vote on the other one?
You didn't have it voted.
Okay, well, then we'll vote on
As
this one.
amended.
Yeah, we'll vote on the approval of the minutes, and then we'll have to jump back. Somebody keep me in line in case I'm already fell off the road. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Okay, so now we have to jump back, thank you, to approve the agenda as amended by Bill. I have a motion, a second, an amendment. All those in favor of the amended agenda?
I would like to, I'm sorry I'm late, but I think we need to move 13A to closed section. It's a legal issue and it needs discussion.
So you want to make an amendment to the amended agenda?
Yes.
Okay? Do we, 13A.
13.
Which is the anti-discrimination policy, which is a legal issue that needs to be discussed.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Yes.
Okay, so all those in favor of the amended agenda, that was our last amended, please show your hand, raise your hands, okay? So we have an amended agenda, so we have approved that. So we are now going to remove 13A to closed. So Cheryl, you'll take care of that? And we have, as Bill had said in his, I guess 13 was a big problem today. We have corrections to 13, B, and C. Okay? So I guess 13D, oh, that's okay. I did the committee appointments. That'll be right. What?
The press is here.
Yes, okay. And the press is here now. All right. So we have the minutes approved, the agenda amended and amended. The press is here, so now I could report from the chair. There are two things to report. Number one, we want to thank Alex Copeland and the other residents who brought to our attention that the price of an ID card was now being charged at $100. That was a mistake. It was not a mistake made by the board. It was a mistake. Somehow there was some miscommunication, and we thank you, the residents who, many of you, brought this to our attention. We were able to check it out and find out that a mistake was made. And we have offered, and it appeared in the paper also, that if you can bring in your receipt, a cancel check or something, into resident services, anytime through the end of February, we will refund your $75. So that doesn't hit our budget. That was something it was just an error. So we thank you. Thank you. Keep us on our toes, keep staff on their toes, and our general manager on his toes, too. All right, the other thing is that we have, Bert Moldow is going to report on good news as it relates to water heaters. The city had made a requirement that was a bit huge, we thought, and we kept trying to fight it as to what a device you had to put in with the water heaters. So Bert will tell you all about it. We've had improvements on that, so we're excited about that. Other than that, we have a full board now, so it's very exciting, and we thank you all for your hard work. Next item is open forum, which is 3 minutes per speaker. And you should have given your card to Cheryl, so first one up is, and remember, you're allowed 3 minutes, and we do not comment while you're there. We wait until all of the open forum is over, and then the appropriate directors speak. So we're going to start your time now. Okay.
Okay, first up is Marvin.
Marvin Rawich, 55103B. This goes back to the leaf blower problem. Just the other day, I observed a lady on the first floor of the building, on the walkway, using a leaf blower in one corner where she was, and I think it was probably at the D level on the first floor. It's obvious she was not part of the landscape crew, but nevertheless, she had a leaf blower, making a lot of noise. And I thought it would probably be a good idea to mention this because this lady apparently doesn't know what's going on, and somehow she should be informed. I am reluctant to personally go down and tell her this, even though I'm the building captain, but maybe I should do that, and I'm seeking advice from the board whether I should do that.
Okay, thank you very much, Marvin. Is there anyone else? Did you?
Yes, our next speaker is Jeffrey Wu.
Good morning, Jeffrey. It's lovely
morning.
to see you again.
Good, in a good situation, right? Jeffrey Wu, 5519 Paseo del Lago East.
Wait, excuse me. We have the, okay, good, thank you.
Last time I announced myself, one of you blurred right me back, say, Marika. Well, Marika has left the building, and that's a good news. Today I want to talk about Marika. With her behavior,
Excuse me, Jeffrey. We do not use this forum to say anything.
No, I'm not saying
about-
anything.
Well, you are. You're mentioning her name, and you're talking
Okay.
about her. We cannot use this forum to discuss, to have conversations about other residents, nor actually about individual staff, nor board
okay,
members.
I'll change it then.
Okay, thank
With
you.
behavior of somebody that lived here for 3 years, and we all know who that is. Brad Hassan, one time I talked to him, he said, oh, sounds like she's here every other day. I, as a captain, had a hard time. Anyway, we should put her in the list of a person who can never come back to third ward. Thank you.
Is there anyone else, Cheryl?
Yes, our next speaker is Chris Collins.
Well, at least Chris won't be complaining. She'll be telling us about the foundation.
You're a mind reader, Rosemary. Good to see you today. I didn't know if you were going to be well enough. Yes, Chris Collins, 3306Q. Today I'm here to give an overview of the work done by the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village on behalf of qualified village residents in 2017. The beginning of the new year presents a challenge for all of us, including the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village. This special time gives us an opportunity to look back, assess our actions, and resolve to do better as we go forward. For the Foundation, it gives us a chance to assess how well we're meeting the needs of village residents facing hard times. In addition to ongoing financial support, the Foundation provides to qualified residents who need such help. During the past year, the Foundation has implemented and strengthened a few new initiatives. First, we started a new effort with the Braille Institute to provide visual aids for low-income residents at no cost to them. Second, We increased the funding of AgeWell Senior Services for the weekend and holiday meal program for the food insecure. Residents, to ensure no resident goes without a meal when the regular Meals on Wheels program is not available. Third, we continued the transportation program for village residents who needed such assistance to go to the South County Outreach Food Pantry, where they can get a week's worth of food once a month. Fourth, the foundation entered into an agreement with 24-hour home care to provide Uber transportation services to needy residents when the city tax voucher system does not meet their needs outside of Orange County. This year, the foundation is looking at ways it can help with disaster preparedness and what role it can play if a disaster should occur. As a result, we seek input from the village as to what we can do in this regard and if there are needs that we are not currently meeting. Please contact the foundation at thefoundation@comline.com or 949-268-2246. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris, and thank you for your hard work. Is there anyone else?
No, that concludes our member speakers.
Okay, so we have two things that were brought up. One is the leaf blower, and that would be under, goodness knows, because it wouldn't be under janitorial. It would just be, it'd probably be under communication. We should communicate to, no, I always look, he starts laughing, let's say everything's under communication, let's look at Bert. No, because what it has to do with is letting the residents know. So go ahead, Bert.
Well, it's really simple. We could put a note in the breeze about this. If, in fact, the leaf blower reads the breeze. But I think we just need to continue to publicize this as best we can.
Bill, you look like you're dying to say something.
Well, I use a leaf blower, but I don't live in those circumstances. But I did have a question for Marvin. Marvin, that light pole that was destroyed by your building, has Edison come, if I've got the right building, right? You've got solar on your building, right? Yep. Yeah. There's a light pole as you pull in there between, I think, the 5510 and the other, there's two buildings in there. And there's several of your neighbors have let us know that light pole's missing. And I was just wondering, I haven't been by there for a couple weeks, but Edison knows about the problem, just to let you know. And it's a specialty light pole that they've got on back order. But you're going to get more light in your cul-de-sac, hopefully, before the winter's over. Edison moves very slowly at times, but staff is on top of it, and hopefully that gets taken care of. You might want to let your neighbors know if you see them out there wandering in the dark. Thanks.
So we are trying to respond to the resident with the leaf blower issue. So we don't want to be talking about something else at the moment. I see other hands going up. Soon we're going to be talking about painting. Yes, John was first and James you're second.
With regard to leaf blowing, I live in a duplex, but across the street there's 4 single-family dwellings, and the lady uses a leaf blower. And I would suggest, Bert, that it would depend on the circumstance whether we find a leaf blower objectionable. Certainly in a 3-story building, that's another issue.
Well, I think this is a health issue that has come up many times. I just don't know if there's a specific resolution a policy that specifically bans our residents from using leaf blowers. So if not, we have to consider that aspect too. And I assume this will come under James' tongue because he's waving his hand.
Okay, James.
Well, yes, first point is for blowers. We do have a policy that normally blowers are not allowed to use on the breezeway, Garden Villa breezeway. However, under special cases, such as that maybe 3-4 weeks ago, there was a huge wind blowing, and a landscape request for temporarily, 1 or 2 weeks, using blower to speed up the cleaning process. I did allow them, but not for long, just temporarily, 1-2 weeks. So, but to Marvin, since you're the building captain, we really, we only have 11 board directors. We rely upon building captain to help us. So in your case, probably what you really should go ahead, tell the residents, hey, your blower is not allowed to use, but if you have question about a policy, maybe you call us or call the resident service or for landscape, find out the policy, because we rely upon you to helping us for certain 6,000 families.
Thank you very much, James. And if all else fails, call on the Garden Villa president to help you, who is sitting next to you in case you don't know her, to help you to advise the residents that we worked really hard to have staff stop doing this in the 3-story buildings. They just have to be reminded. But as far as leaf blowers go overall, we don't have a policy, and it seems that if you have what are the health ramifications? If you have a single home, could it bother your neighbors next door? I know on the 2-story buildings, if people were using if somebody had a leaf blower, it could bother people. So maybe it's just something that we should look at. Yes, Jules.
I just wish to add a point about leaf blowers. We seem to be, I think this is being overly sticky. Leaf blowing is a noise that we've all grown up in.
It's a health issue for some. It's beyond noise. It's a breathing. It's the stuff that is thrown into the air while it's taking things out.
Even for a minimal amount of time,
Well-
it seems that, I guess I'm just learning something, but
I
we
guess
have
you're
leaf
just a
blowers.
lawyer, not a doctor.
That's right. We have leaf blowers in our neighborhood, and people generally use them
Okay.
in order to
In any
clear
case,
all of
enough
the
about the leaf
leaves.
blowers.
Rosemary,
Let's-
can I make one more
Oh,
comment?
oh.
No, not comment. This is a question to Brad, because we were, in the long run, we try, definitely for health reasons, we try to avoid the blower. So to solving that problem, we are asking, our management can purchase those vacuum system when it comes to critical issues using those larger vacuum. I think even when Kurt was here, we were thinking about that. So, Brad, that's your
Okay,
problem.
so thank you very much, James. All right, so now the other issue was wait, I didn't, Brad, does Brad want to respond?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I don't want to miss some airtime here, Anyway, good point, James. We have purchased through General Services some of these smaller vacuum trucks, and we're using that pretty extensively on getting back in some of the smaller cul-de-sacs, and then also for the carport cleaning. And now it still requires a little bit of blowing. It will drive through the carports pretty well, but it won't get entirely in the corner. So usually there'll be a guy with him blowing just a little bit to get it out of the corner, and then they'll suck it up with the truck. So we've reduced the amount of blowing with carport cleaning a whole bunch. And we still do a little bit of blowing on turf trimming, but it's really low volume sort of stuff just to get it off the sidewalk. It's not really that, getting stuff airborne that you see when people are really have the throttle all the way down and are really cleaning things up. So we've altered our techniques a lot, and of course we don't use them at all in the garden villas anymore. So a big difference in the way we're doing business. Certainly, both from a noise and a particulate perspective, I think it's a much better way. There's still times when it's pretty hard to beat a leaf blower. For example, after the Santa Anas, where we had just finished cleaning all of the storm drains, then you get this big Santa Ana event that clogs everything up again. And so we're trying to get that off before that happened. And so we actually worked out pretty well. So I appreciate the leniency, James, in getting that cleaned up before those rains came.
Okay, and the other issue that was brought up by another resident was, and this would be a legal issue, but I guess I'm looking at Bert again. No, I mean, the thing is, or maybe Brad, I don't believe that we can formulate a list of people who cannot move back into the community. I think that would be,
Yeah, absent probably an extensive list of rules violations and other security and other problems, I can't even imagine such a concept. I do have to say, though, and I feel compelled, we have a lot of persnickety residents here. There may actually be a couple on the board here. And
or perhaps
and
our
I
general
myself
manager.
am kind of persnickety, and while these folks can be challenging, I think they also make the community a much better place by pointing out the deficiencies and things that need to be corrected. And so I don't think anybody would argue that
Don't mention
the
names.
particular building in question is probably one of the nicer garden villas around, and there's a reason for that. And so I always welcome any comments any of our residents have on ways we can make things better, be more efficient, provide better customer service. And so I know it can be challenging at times, but there are probably 30 residents in this community that make the difference of 1,000. And so I think I appreciate them and I welcome their input.
Brad,
Okay.
can you define persnickety for?
He said, he uses the word nitpicker sometimes. Are those interchangeable? Okay.
It's a similar sort of thing.
So if we have any complaint in front of the board, we now know what to do. We just send them to Brad.
And that's what we do, really. But, okay, so the next thing is an update from BMS, Marcy Scheinwald. And we are very proud to announce that Marcy is now the chair of BMS, which is, they don't have a president. They have a chair and a second chair. And she became the co-chair or what. And Marcy's first day on the board, she was already last year put in as the number 2, so now she moved up to number 1. We have started one new thing with VMS, is that every month, the person who is on VMS is asked to attend our board luncheon, and then for the first item on our closed agenda, and if we need to ask Brad to leave, we will, this is new today, where we're going to ask them questions as it relates to VMS, and they could inform us of things, and it'll be for a short period of time. So this is Marcy reporting to us in open session and to the community. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. As you know, as Rosemarie announced, I am Marcy Scheinwald. I am a member of the VMS board. For those, since I am on television, not familiar with the VMS board, there are 9 members. 3 appointed by each of the mutuals and GRF. Our function as a board is to provide oversight to village management and all issues affecting employees. We continually benchmark and monitor such issues as compensation, benefits, IT development, organizational issues, legal and ethical concerns, union contracts, and certainly improvements to customer service. We meet bi-weekly, and we operate primarily through 2 mechanisms. The first is a strategic plan, which is organized around 5 basic goals. It includes approximately 60 items. Those goals are exemplary customer service, facilitating efficient operations, providing a safe community, transparent communications, and becoming an employer of choice. The second mechanism is our meeting directly with senior staff and reviewing their progress on a rotating basis. What I'd like to do today is to highlight some of our recent activities. With regard to the strategic plan, Approximately 25 of the 60-plus items have been completed. For example, a new budget software, Microsoft Forecast. I have to indicate something. Either it's an indication of my age or the design of this podium. I find I have to hold my notes closer, so I apologize. But when I put them all the way down, they are very far away. A new budget software, Microsoft Forecaster, was implemented, making business planning easier this year. As you well know, a caregiver application process was implemented. Enforcement protocols have been streamlined. Disaster preparedness and neighborhood watch programs have been put in place. And there's been a real-life increase in the quantity and clarity of resident communications, primarily through e-blasts and certainly through TV broadcasts by Brad, the CEO, and other members of the staff. 14 of the 60-plus items are on target, and these include such items as recreation programming and the proposed handyman services. In 2017, we saw a new July 4th celebration, shopping excursions, a hoedown, a holiday buffet, and a New Year's Eve concert at the Performing Arts Center. Electric vehicles are also being integrated into our fleet, and the availability of charging stations increased. The use of LED lighting has also been increased. There have been items postponed. For example, a CRM system, a customer relation management system, has essentially been put off to the side. It's my understanding that Chuck Holland is looking at smaller implementations of functionality to forestall the large expense and the difficulty of a complete overhaul installation. As to the second mechanism used by VMS, we are continuing our rotating meetings with senior staff. In December, we met with Ernesto Munoz, who oversees maintenance and operations. He reviewed the projects underway in 2017, including the renovation of Garden Centers 1 and 2, the HVAC system at Clubhouse 5, the Community Center Fitness Center, the Simulstat antenna, as well as other paving, solar, and roofing programs. Ernesto also reviewed the status of the waistline program involving, and this was an education for me, epoxy-based lining treatment of both interior and exterior lines in both United and Third Mutual, which it is my understanding will be completed in stages in the next 11 to 12 years in order to get all the lines involved. As a side note, with regard to maintenance and operation, there were 43 plumbing calls over the Thanksgiving weekend, and all were answered and resolved. 41 in-house and 2 with outside vendors. I have not yet learned the statistics for the Christmas holiday, but I will report this weekend I was an emergency call with a mainline blockage and was very pleased with the response, both by security who came to assess the problem in my house to determine what kind of equipment would be needed. And then I had a plumber in my house, actually a member of our staff within an hour, who took a little over an hour to resolve the problem. He was professional, he was timely, and he was actually very clean. My house was very neat after this problem. The beginning of this month, we met with Brian Gruner, who oversees recreation. He first reviewed 2017 accomplishments, which included customer service training, stronger collaboration with village clubs, golf improvements, and implementation of garden center policy and procedures. In 2017, there were 120,000 rounds of golf, 260 recreation coordinated events, improved aquatic services, and the opening of 2 additional fitness centers. He also described some of his plans for 2018. Continued customer service training, online program registration, which I'm sure is something all of us would benefit from, expanded card swipe systems, and improvements at the golf clubhouse. I would like to end by noting that there are challenges in the months ahead. Both our community manager, Lori Morse, and our HR director, Jackie Giacomessi, are leaving shortly. Both will be hard to replace, and efforts are underway in both regards. We will also continue to update our strategic plan and keep you informed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Not to get people in the community in the panic mode.
Okay,
like,
I'm not trying.
Oh, God, people are resigning left and right.
Well, one is
retiring, and the other is getting married and moving
Yes.
away.
And so they're positive.
They're right. They aren't running away because Brad is here, or because the boards drove them to it.
No,
And
not
so,
at all.
So that's always important because we hear little rumors. And somebody said when you weren't at the meeting that Jackie you have hired her replacement. Is that true?
It is my understanding, yes. I was part of the search mechanism for the new HR coordinator, and I don't think it's my position to announce
Right,
her
but-
name, but I will tell you, her qualifications were impressive, and I think that she will do an excellent job.
Excellent. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that ends that. I was almost looking at the wrong agenda here. So the next item is the CEO report.
Thank you.
Why is your nameplate crooked?
Well, it is just a magnet.
No, it's like this.
Would you go straight on my nameplate? I can't
It's
blame
the only-
any, I
it's the
cannot
only
blame
one.
anybody for this because I actually designed the system that hangs this.
Okay.
And it's in a way so you can accommodate any number of people sitting up here, so nothing's fixed. It all moves around, but
All right,
sometimes it moves when you don't want it to.
It's straight now. Go ahead.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Honorable Madam Chairman, members of the board. Always a pleasure to be here.
It's Madam President.
Madam President, excuse me. God, I had a county moment there. Members of the community, always a pleasure to address you, and I wish all a happy new year. I'll start off with a little bit of storm talk. We had a pretty windy event, not a lot of rain, but enough to test the systems and their maintenance, and I think the community came through that. I think we had maybe 1 or 2 trees that went down, and that's about it. So I think the community fared quite well. I have not received a single complaint from residents about storm-related activities, and staff seem to think that it went quite well. So unless you have information otherwise, we continue to monitor and maintain storm facilities and in anticipation that we might actually get some rain this year. And we're hopeful that we do get some, maybe not as much as last year, but maybe 3/4 that amount would be nice. And so that effort is ongoing. We have made a number of changes in the landscaping program, both in terms of some staffing changes, new managers, some new supervisors, and then looking at some of our systems and processes, particularly with respect to tree trimming and the kind of schedules we want to be on for that. Some trees, maybe those that are around stop signs and street lights and building numbers, maybe those are annual trees, and then certain species, maybe 3-year trees, and others might be 5-year trees. And so to plot and map all that out, using Arbor Pro to develop what we think is going to be a much more intelligent and thoughtful approach to tree trimming rather than, we're in your cul-de-sac for the first time in 3 years, we're going to trim everything in sight. And so a little different approach. I think it'll be much better for the community in so many different ways, both in terms of safety and aesthetics. And then, of course, for third, probably one of the bigger issues, well, two big issues, are landscaping around the perimeter that abuts some of the native areas out there and some of the fire threats that may pose, both in terms of what we've planted and are maintaining on our property, but also what others have on their property and are not maintaining properly. So we're addressing both those issues simultaneously. So we'll have a plan to discuss with you on that. And then, of course, in third, another big issue that you don't face so much in United is all the slopes. And they have mostly very old acacia on them that really is quite woody and fire prone and, quite frankly, looks horrible. And coyotes. And so that needs to be removed and something cleaner, less with less fuel load, and that maybe grows a little lower. And I think we're looking at that as well. That will be a multi-year effort. Obviously, you have a lot of slopes. All of your programs and maintenance are pretty much concluded. We had a couple that carried over a few weeks, but I think we're just about concluded for the year and starting up on the New Year's programs. I think Ernesto and his team did a really good job at lining things up. We had just hired DMC, which is a pretty prominent engineering firm around here, to design all of the gates, and they're in that process right now. It's really 8 distinct designs, just for the community's sake. I know you know, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and 14 are the current plan. I may, and we'll have to have some discussion on this, may request that we just go ahead and throw 10, 11 into the mix as well, as we've kind of had some discussions, but we're leaning towards maybe not combining those. Just let's get those done. And then 12, I think we've decided, though it's not official, probably not to put gates there. It's just for the security benefit. Is a substantial cost to relocate, construct a new gatehouse, relocate it, a new entry into 12. It was just a very complicated, expensive endeavor for what we perceive as a very, very modest benefit in terms of security. So that's the thinking on those. Probably the piece that everybody's going to ask that I don't have the answer to is, what's the phasing for that? I mean, obviously not going to do 8 gates all at once. It'd be a disaster. And so that's something the engineering firm and the team need to work out. And then on a analytical basis, and then we've got to run that by you to make sure it works for your residents as well. So we're trying to get that together, but I suspect you wouldn't want to do more than 2 or 3 of these at a time, or you could really run into some access issues. We continue to work hard on your garden villas. There's a number of projects we're moving forward with, and we had a great year for garden villas. We're anticipating a great year again. We are, I would say recruiting, but maybe it's more of a searching for our sort of building superintendent position to really put some attention, customer service, attention to detail on all of your multi-story buildings, your garden villas and LH21s. Really go through and inspect them, make sure that things that need to be fixed are entered into the work order entry system, and that we move aggressively towards making the improvements there in a timely fashion. So I feel good about that. It's something we've talked about quite a bit. And actually, I had somebody in mind for that, but he left. So now we've got to find somebody else. I was glad to hear about Marcy's experience with the plumbing. We started this a couple of months ago with just having staff here every day of the week. It's not 24/7, but they're here every day of the week, and we handle We just changed their schedule. It's not like an overtime assignment or something. They just work a different schedule, and we have, unfortunately, it seems like plumbing issues like to happen at night and on the weekends. I don't know why that is, but it is so. And in the past, we've had either a security officer or somebody at resident services trying to diagnose these plumbing issues, and oftentimes saying, well, you've got a second bathroom, that'll wait till Monday. Well, maybe, maybe not. And so we've discontinued that practice. If you've got a plumbing issue on nights and weekends, we send a plumber out. And they'll tell us if it can wait till Monday, and quite frankly, they don't do that. If they're there, they'll just fix it. And so that's been our experience, and it's been very positive, and we think that's going to diminish the number of these sort of damage restoration cases that you have from water events. So we're pretty positive about that, and I think when you combine that with the waistline epoxy program, you're kind of attacking this from two different perspectives, and I am hopeful that we won't have to have such an elaborate and well-staffed damage restoration, moisture intrusion program in the future, because we won't have near as many events as we've had in the past. And there's some efficiency and savings that the community can reap as well. So we're positive about that. Getting ready to make some pretty big changes in resident services and manner alterations. We're kind of at the beginning stages of this, but the first piece of that is, pulling manner alterations out of resident services and having kind of a standalone office for that. Those interactions are usually long, and so having them kind of queue in a line and for these services for the most part is not the best way to do it. And yeah, there's a place for a certain amount of that, but really want folks to be able to make appointments and come in, lay plans out, sit down, make sure they understand all the requirements, city permits, all that sort of stuff. And we're hopeful that we can get some co-location with the city as well in this new space. And so very positive about how that is going to turn out. We've also are adding a couple of features to assist, and we seem to notice that most of the problems we have with language barriers focus around alterations and compliance, very complicated at times issues, and so we've made a call out to residents who have good English speaking skills, but also speak Farsi or Mandarin or Korean, to serve as sort of part-time interpreters / facilitators in helping us serve some of those residents. So we got a really positive response. And so there's a lot of residents who express interest in doing that. And so we'll be putting together a panel to provide that assistance to us. And I think I mentioned at your last meeting, we have ordered, and I think it'll be here today or tomorrow, there was a huge backlog on these Google Earbuds, which basically, it's right out of Star Trek. It is the universal translator. And so it goes to a special Google Android phone, and there's earphones, and people talk into it, and it translates that into your native language, and then you talk back, and it translates it back the other way. And so we're going to be trying these in resident services for some of our language challenged folks who don't speak really good English and aren't comfortable getting really detailed information in a language they're not comfortable with. Many of our residents are fine, and they get by just fine on everyday things, but when you get down to a really complicated thing like a manner alterations or something, they really probably need that in their native tongue to understand all the intricate detail that has to be conveyed. And so we'll try the Google Earbuds. We've got some interpreters that have expressed some interest, residents who are concerned about their fellow residents, and I think we'll turn that into something very positive. So that's all I have. I'd certainly answer any questions you have.
Okay, I have a few questions. But I'm going to wait my questions until the board members ask first. John, yes.
Brad, do you have any comments on the corner of Avenue de la Carta and Ridge Route with regard to the homeless?
Well, obviously, we've all seen kind of an escalation in the number of homeless in the vicinity of our village. And there are a number of reasons for that. Probably the most significant is the sort of conduct and the enforcement issues that local jurisdictions are engaged in. And so typically, if the neighboring city decides they're going to, come down on certain, it's not the homelessness itself, it's usually some of the behaviors associated with homelessness, like trespassing, littering, those sorts of things that sort of generate a response. Then when those other local communities start enforcing, folks move around. And so I think we've seen a little bit of that here. And I think for us, the best approach is, number one, if we have attractive areas that would harbor some of these behaviors that we don't want around our village, that we sort of abate those. And I would point to some of the areas along Ridge Route there that need maintenance, and there are a couple of others as well. I won't say publicly, but we need to clean them up and make them not as attractive to folks who would engage in those kinds of behaviors. And I think the other thing is to truly work with our city and county officials who have the primary responsibility for these folks and contact them and have some of their homeless outreach workers come out. I know the county supervisor has expressed some interest in addressing this issue around our community, and the county has a number of programs designed, most of them are funded by the state and federal government to address homelessness, including what is the most sort of popular and I think probably effective way to address homelessness, which is rapid rehousing. If you put somebody in a house, they're not homeless anymore. And then you can start attacking some of the other issues that may be leading to their homelessness, like substance abuse, mental illness, other things. But the first step, get them off the streets, and then let's take care of some of these other issues that are causing the homelessness in the first place. So, yeah, I think that I doubt this will ever be the kind of substantial haven for the homeless like you'll see, say, along the Santa Ana River or other beach towns, other places that just have more attractive areas for this kind of activity. But I think we will see some as other communities engage in enforcement regarding some of these ancillary behaviors.
Okay, Brad, I had a question on, does anyone else have anything before I go? On Gate 12, you had said once that eventually we were going to stop needing the decals when all of the gates were in place. So and just go to the straight RFIDs. So if you don't have an electronic system at Gate 12, then you would still need the decals, wouldn't you? So that is a cost factor too. So what are you going to?
I think the ambassadors that work there have a fairly good sense of the folks that come there, and the RFID is sort of visible on the car, and so they can see that, and a lot of folks flash their cards, drive golf carts. I think it's manageable. I think we'll have to monitor it.
Okay.
We'll need to monitor it.
All right. I also have a good comment on weekend plumbing. In our building, someone had a problem, and I said, just call residents, just call security or whatever, and it was so nice to be able to say, we have a weekend plumber on, and they were taken care of because she didn't come and bother me anymore. One of the other things you changed, though, as far as that goes, is in the past, if somebody came to a home and they were doing work, security used to sit with them all the time, right? Remember?
Yeah, we've kind of discontinued that.
You've discontinued it, which was a really fabulous thing, because could you explain how you did that and why you did it? Because I think it's really important. And then the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is, could you talk a little bit, in case people didn't watch the town hall, talk a little bit about the new boxes, and where people can get information on that?
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah. Well, I mean, having an employee, security or otherwise, stand around and watch another employee work is just not very efficient. And so we run background checks on all of our employees. We have extensive insurance in case of any criminal activity or theft. So we have residents pretty well covered on that. So just to have somebody standing around watching didn't seem very efficient to us, so we discontinued that practice. Particularly, we have a lot of security enforcement issues out in the community. To take an officer off the street for a couple hours and have them, sitting there watching a plumber, not only is it inefficient, they're just not out doing their job. And so we think this is a much better approach to that. With respect to what we're now calling the Bandwidth Improvement Program, which has a lot of different features to it. The first of which is we have 10,000 manners now that are now connected to internet service over our infrastructure on a system that originally was designed for about 1,000. And so we're doing everything we can to open up bandwidth so we can make that internet experience very positive. One of the things we did was to add the lasers, which really speeds up information through that infrastructure. The next thing we need to do is to basically move forward with not having analog broadcasts anymore. And analog broadcasts take up a lot of space in your infrastructure. And so, and I think Chuck said this, I'll say it one more time, for every analog channel that we broadcast, we could put 14 digital channels through the same amount of space in the pipeline. And so the idea is to eliminate these analog channels so we have more capacity in the pipe, not only for better internet service, but also for better TV service. And so it allows us to add things like the whole home DVR, which sort of encourages residents to look for unique and special programming that's not on our system over the internet. And it's like Netflix, Hulu, Sling, all those sorts of products that are out there that allow you to pretty much watch whatever you want, when you want. Those come through that same broadband infrastructure. And so we're very pleased to be able to offer, and actually I'm getting a similar whole home DVR set up at my house. We've kind of got one main box, and then you sort of have the server, and then the other boxes are smaller and less complicated in all the bedrooms or the garage or the kitchen or wherever the heck you want a TV. And then they all work together. They can work independent, but they can all work together as well.
So we are going to be introducing this whole home DVR system? And
Yes.
it's being tested now?
We've got a number of manners that we're testing it in. Now, we really, in order to have a positive experience when you get into some larger numbers, we have to create a level of bandwidth that will support it, and that involves removing the analog channels. And the first piece of that is this requires consecutive channels in the dial position in order to funnel this whole home DVR bandwidth through. And so that's the first phase.
You're being very technical.
Yes.
The thing is I think people want to know, if my box that I have is giving me problems, should I wait a month or something, or am I still getting it replaced? And are the new boxes out? I think that it's like the other stuff is like really technical. I think because somebody said, I have to go and get my box replaced. I'm having problems with it. And I said, well, I don't know if you want to do that. Maybe, I think a new one is coming out. I think, that's the sort of the story, the gist of it.
Okay, well, there's a couple of things going on here. So, and this will take the entire year to implement, but when you get to the end of the year, if you have an analog TV, and if you don't know if you have an analog or not, if it's more than 2 inches thick, it's probably an analog. That will not work on our system without an adapter or a new TV. I recommend, and I think it's cheaper in the long run, because the TVs have gotten so inexpensive, go buy a digital TV. Don't buy a little box from us and then pay a fee every month. That doesn't make any sense. The TVs are so inexpensive now. I think, and it depends on your level of TV sophistication and how far you want to go with it. I think excuse me, let me go forward. If you have a digital TV and you plug it into the wall, you'll still get a number of channels, maybe 100. And so that's good. They will not be, I talked to a resident about this the other day, they will not be in digital. Most digital signals are encrypted. And so even though you have a digital TV, if you plug it right into the wall, you're not really getting a digital signal on that TV, or you're not getting the crisp, full. You really have to have some sort of little box that we have, a number of them, that will decrypt that signal so you get it in the digital format. And so those range around $725 a month, I think, for a box that does that. And that also adds a digital guide and some other things. So for most people, that $725 a month is going to be everything you need. You're going to be very, very happy. There are others who want to go kind of the next step, and we have a box up that gives you more channels and more choices, and then you get to the Cadillac, which is the whole home DVR, and it's I don't know the exact price on it. I want to say it's maybe between $20 and $30 a month, and it has 25 the over-the-top services like Hulu and Sling and Netflix and all that directly burnt into it, and like a terabyte of memory, so you can record 6 things simultaneously, and it has a lot of capacity for your very intensive TV user. But I think if I had a box right now that wasn't working very well, or I wasn't happy with it, I think I would upgrade now, and then we'll have some demonstration whole home DVRs around, and so folks could maybe look at that and see if that's something you want to upgrade to. But I wouldn't wait, because it'll be a while till we're able to roll that out in mass to large numbers in the community.
Okay, well, I think that's good. All right, I think Bert, did you have a question? And then I know Steve has something. But did I just think your hand was up?
Well, this goes back to your weekend plumbing. I think we wanted to put a note in the breeze of who to call when, and that didn't get in. And I thought you were going to send out a blast telling residents during the weekend who to call when, because my understanding is resident services is open on Saturday but not Sunday, so they have to know who to call at what time.
We'll get that out.
That's important.
That's a good point.
Could you tell us now, though, and get it out?
Yeah, well, I think generally if you're uncertain, just call security, and they'll take care of it. But obviously, during the weekdays, you can call resident services, and they'll handle that for you. Like I said, Saturdays we go to about noon, but generally on the weekends, I would call security. They dispatch those plumbers on the weekends, as well as, because they're only here, I want to say 7 to 7 or so, and just like during the week, for some reasons, weekend plumbing issues don't want to happen between 7 and 7. They want to happen at 10 at night. And so we have both an on-call staff and a contract plumbing service, and so whichever one can get here quickest and serve the resident, that's what we use. So I would recommend on those nights and weekend plumbing issues, call security. That will be your quickest route to get a plumber out there, because they're really dialed in with these guys. It's probably one of the most frequent calls they get on the weekend is plumbing.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, with regards to analog TVs, are residents able to have their analog TVs, usually the old ones, removed from their residence by VMS or another service?
Yeah.
We had talked about that one time, but I didn't remember.
Yeah, we're going to offer that, and it depends on how many people want to buy the device and make their analog TV work. They can certainly do that or rent it from us. And how many just say, the heck with it, I'm gonna get rid of this. But if you had, say, 2,000 people in the next year that said, I'm gonna get rid of this old junky TV, we'd have to set up a special program for that. And we're equipped to do that. I mean, we're ready and willing to do that. And we hope we do that, because I think the digital provides such a improved experience over the analog TVs. Not only just it looks a lot better, but the guide is so much more sophisticated and provides so much more information when it comes through that encrypted mode on a licensed guide. So
in the last one is we talked about a new human resource director. And we're very excited about having a new human resource director join your team because we really would like some really updated or upscaled training of our employees. I think some people don't think that because we have a union, we're not involved in training the employees, which we are. So just because they belong, the union doesn't train them, we train them. The union is part of the hiring process. So could you tell us the name of the new human resource person and when they're going to start and how, and so it would be good because we really are looking forward to more exciting employee motivation programs.
yes, the new HR director is Carrie Weldon, and she Carrie Weldon, and C-A-R-R-I-E, and she has extensive HR experience, all of it in the private sector, with a number of both manufacturing firms, but also with some interesting communities like we have. And so it's kind of a mix. She was the HR director at the Santa Catalina Island Company. And so they have some very peculiar challenges out there with employees. They hire a lot of employees during the summer, and they have to house them and feed them. And I mean, there's a whole logistical thing involved in that. So I thought that was a very different kind of experience for your typical HR director. And then she's had some more traditional jobs that were more in the manufacturing side and some others as well. So broad background, a lot of, the other thing I liked about her is that at Catalina, she did a lot of other things too, because she had capability and there just wasn't anybody else to do them. And so she took on other roles and responsibilities for which she had really no specific training. And I like that about her too, that she would, work outside the box, have a broad perspective on things. And so we're pretty excited to have her here. Now, Jackie's been here the 22nd, Monday.
Of this month?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Jackie's going to be here another 6 or 8 weeks. She's been here over 30 years, and so there's a lot of things that she does that maybe need better documentation, and so I wanted some overlap there so we could get that historical sort of oral history of the HR department and get it kind of recorded and down and ready for the future. And so we're going to miss Jackie a lot. She's provided some excellent service for the community.
Thank you, Brad. All right, so are we finished with Brad for now? Okay, all right, so the next thing is on the agenda is the consent calendar. So do we have a motion
I shall move
to approve?
to approve.
Do we have a second? Okay. We have a second. I saw Roy's hand went up first. Are we voting by hand, Cheryl, or are we voting by?
Hand.
Hand? Hand, all right. Okay, all those,
Can we have a discussion?
yeah, I was going to say, are there any comments? We have a first and a second. Comments? Yes, Bunny?
Okay, just on 11G, it's the landscape committee recommendations. It's written on here, it says deny one, approve one. So what are we recommending, that it gets to be approved?
2 trees.
2 trees.
2 trees.
one we remove
One
one
you're
tree,
approving
the
and
other
the
tree
other
we
you're
keep it.
denying.
So,
Okay.
deny.
So you're approving the removal of the American sweet gum, is that correct?
Yeah.
That's what it says. Okay, that's a good question, Bunny. Yes, Bill?
Yeah, on 11A, where we're denying the driveway pavers,
Right.
does anybody know, I wasn't here at the MNC, but does anybody know if we're going to pursue fixing the concrete that prompted the question about putting pavers in? It would seem to me that that would be the next logical step. Pardon me?
That would be a natural fall.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's, if we've, okay. I will make sure that somebody follows up, make sure that they go and investigate what needs to be done there.
I'm pretty sure that we did agree to do that, but I can't say for certain. Perhaps Bert will remember. Bert,
Well, we didn't discuss it at the meeting. We didn't. I don't believe that because I was there, but I believe that we probably didn't think it needed to be discussed because we would just do what we have to do as people who maintain the community.
I'll
But I
follow up
think
with-
it's a great thing because we should do it in a timely manner.
Sure, they've been waiting months
Okay.
for a decision off, and I think we should certainly follow up. And I'll talk to Ernesto and see what, he's got a concrete program.
It would be under Bruce.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce is doing the concrete? Okay, he's still, okay.
Okay, so so we've had some discussion. Is everyone ready to vote on this? All right, all those in favor of the consent calendar? Okay, everyone voted yes? Am I correct? Yes? All right. So the next thing is unfinished business, and we have none today. We have moved 13A to closed session. And for 13B and C, we have the new information, and these have to do with alteration standards. So, Bill, would that be you?
That would be me. That would be me.
Or Bert? I mean, Bert, I always, look at, I'm always calling on Bert. If it has anything to be read, Bert likes to do it.
That's what I was going to ask, if we're just going to read them, or do you need an explanation of each of these? And Bert Moldow, you can jump in here too, because you were chair of that committee when this all went down, so.
So describe a VU. I'm looking at, I'm looking at B here. I'm looking at C.
B is after.
Oh, well, B is after C. That's the new alphabet. Okay, so on B, we are saying that
Bathroom splits.
bathroom splits, okay. So what is a bathroom split? I know what it is, but maybe you want to just,
Well, in certain circumstances, residents have come to VMS to be able to take an existing bathroom and create two bathrooms from that one bathroom. And it only applies to certain manor types where they've got a bathroom that they can expand a little bit. But it's setting the standards for when somebody comes with that information, that request.
and what is the standard?
The standard, do you want me to read
Well,
it?
no, I mean,
The
well,
standard,
if we're discussing.
the standard is to let them do that, but there are certain.
Requirements.
Requirements that they
Okay.
have to meet to do that.
So if somebody wants to have their bathroom split, they should go to
They go to alterations.
alterations. And if they want to, are we doing the appointment system yet?
Not quite yet. We got to get the new space first, which is
Oh, okay.
coming up rather quickly.
All right, because we think it'll be fabulous, like,
Yes.
that people can call for an appointment and not have to stand around waiting. Okay, so right now, if you want, so, all right, so if we want to, do we have to vote on this standard?
Yes,
All right,
because
go right
what
ahead.
we need, it's on the 30-day period.
Okay.
So we first need to,
So do you want to read anything to us, Bert?
well, I'll read the top half.
Okay,
And then I'll read some of the applications, just
Okay.
so we know. Like 2 and 2.3, all right? Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend alteration standards and create new alteration standards as necessary, whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee has reviewed numerous various requests to remodel bathrooms, specifically to create a second bathroom in the footprint of the original bathroom. This type of alteration is commonly referred to as a bathroom split. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to create a new standard for these alterations, eliminating the need for members to apply for a variance request for a common alteration. Now therefore be it resolved, January 16, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby introduces the following standard, Section 42nd of the alteration standards for bathroom splits. And then Section 47 is outlined below, and I'll just read a few of the applications. 2.1, bathroom splits are prohibited in manners with 2 bathrooms. 2.2, manners with 2 bathrooms may reconfigure walls and doors within the same footprint only. 2.3, manners with 1 full bathroom may split bathroom into 2 bathrooms as follows. A, the original footprint may be extended up to 3 feet in one direction. B, the extension of a bathroom footprint may not involve a load-bearing wall or supporting columns. C, the extension of a bathroom footprint may not extend into adjacent hallways. So resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. So I move, and once we accept the resolution and its wording, there'll be a 30-day waiting period for the next board meeting in which we actually can discuss and vote on it. So is there any discussion on the wording?
I think you may have simply misstated the now therefore provision in section 43 of the alterations and standards.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, so I don't think we need to vote on this, right?
No.
Do we have a
Okay.
second?
Yes, we should have a
Okay,
second.
so we'll have a 30-day waiting period and,
Right, and
Okay.
then we can discuss it further and then vote on it.
all right? And then we can go to 13C, which is
That's
a conglomeration of various standards that staff is trying to get, bring it up to date from. Some of these are pretty old standards and bring it up to date for, with modern materials and basically shorten the standards because most of them have this long preamble about working hours and all of that, and to just reference it in one section. So kind of shorten them up, but basically, do you want to go through one by one there, Bert, and read them?
No, I can just, let's see, there's one, we can do the exterior floor coverings. That's section 11. That's in the handout that we got.
What
That's
page?
item 13C, page 10 of 23, corrected. So that's on the addendum that you have, not the original.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes, excuse me, the need to amend alteration standards and create create new alteration standards as necessary, and whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to revise alteration standard Section 11, exterior floor covering, now therefore be it resolved January 16th, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby revises and amends the following section of alteration standard, Section 11, exterior floor covering. So this is 3.4. Mutual members assume responsibility for any building damage, including dry rot, that occurs due to the installation or presence of a floor covering. Resolve further, add the following section to alteration standards, Section 11, exterior floor coverings, and 2.8, concrete stain and epoxy coatings are permitted on concrete slabs in patios, atriums, and courtyards only. These coatings are prohibited on common area walkways. Resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written. I move.
Do we have a second? You have a second? Steve? Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll start with Bunny and work my way to Bert, okay?
I'm reading here where it says the following section to alternate standard section doors, exterior, and concrete stain and epoxy coating. But it says these coatings are prohibited in common area walkways. Well, that makes me think of the breezeway that we're now resurfacing. Okay, and there'll be a concrete, they'll be painted. And they're also suggesting some other type, maybe coating on there. So I'm wondering how this is gonna impact that.
Well, in a sense that, go ahead. Let's answer that. My interpretation in reading this was essentially this is for individual manners.
Okay.
And so when you're looking at the breezeway, that's all common area, even though that's taken care of by the mutual.
Right.
Whereas if I have a patio in my, at my back door, and I want to put epoxy covering over it, you wouldn't be allowed to walk out your front door in a 3-story building, I don't believe, and put epoxy on your walkway.
Okay.
So,
I just wanted that clarification.
yeah,
Thank
okay.
you.
John?
Item, what's that, 2.8, you said coatings are prohibited on common area walkways. Should we also include common area driveways? I mean, isn't that what we agreed on in the last meeting?
Try that again? You're looking at me.
Well,
Explain.
we precluded paving on the, tiles, bricks on the common area driveways. But we didn't address the issue of stain and epoxy coatings.
I don't think this covers that.
Then maybe we should postpone this and address that issue.
So, but we've determined that, okay. Which section are you reading, 2.8?
Yes, please.
These coatings are prohibited on common area walkways. Okay, and your point, I'm missing
My
it.
point is regarding driveways.
I think that should, really, that should
Are we going to
be-
do concrete stain and epoxy? You're thinking we should be able to put concrete
Well,
stain and epoxy coatings on driveways?
I'm not saying what I think, I'm saying it's driveways are not addressed.
Well, they should be then addressed in another manner, not making, I don't think we should complicate this one. That's,
In other words, if a resident wants to use a concrete stain on his driveway, we're not going to have a problem with it.
we won't allow it.
Well, then why don't we say that in here?
Because they don't do, the driveway is our area. We fix the driveways. If
So-
somebody wanted to do anything with their driveway, they would have to come to alterations. So we don't allow painting, we don't allow mosaics, we don't, whatever. That would be interesting, a mosaic driveway. No, I'm kidding.
I would recommend that we postpone this or have, address it at
Okay.
the next MNC, which is,
Well, isn't this on 30-day notification?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, that's-
so within the 30 days, perhaps we could see if this needs to be edited or changed, or?
we have an MNC on the 3rd of February,
Right. Bert, do we have
5th of February.
a standard on driveways in all of these standards?
I do not believe there is any standard on driveways,
And that's mainly because it's common area.
because it's
Right.
common area.
Right.
I mean, before
So
you
we
know it, you're
don't-
going to be doing a
So you're
standard
not
on
gonna,
doorbells.
they'd have to write a whole new standard for driveways. That's what
right.
you're asking?
That was if we, and you would write that standard if you were going to permit it. Okay,
Correct.
that standard would
Right.
basically lay down the rules as to
Right.
what they'd have to do to comply with that standard.
Right.
But in this particular case, it's something that does not exist, I mean, if you had to do that for everything that we did, we'd have standards
Yeah.
that
Right.
would never
I mean, you
quit.
have alteration standards.
Yeah.
That's not, a driveway is not an alteration,
No.
can't be an alteration.
No.
I mean, we could do a standard on what sound you could have on your doorbell when it rings. No,
Right.
we don't, I mean,
Okay.
I'm kidding, it's a
I-
joke.
I would like,
Bert Ball?
when we voted on this resolution on pavers on driveways. So we have talked about driveways, and we do have a resolution. The question is, we banned the pavers, did we ban coatings? How far? And that's, now we say it's common area, so maybe we need to relook at this again.
I agree.
Just to make
Okay.
sure that
Well,
it's
we can do it
consistent.
on a 30-day comment,
Yeah.
you know.
Maybe you should just discuss it at your architecture
Yeah,
meeting.
we're going to meet on Thursday morning, so we'll talk about it.
I think the reason is the fact that we have never, ever had a request for painting a driveway, whereas we have had requests for pavers.
Right. Well, now we have.
Okay, so where are we on that? Are we done? Are we finished?
Yeah.
It's on 30 days, so we don't vote for it, okay.
All
All
right.
right. So have we done B and C then?
Well, C's got a number of them. Bert, did you want to go through those? A lot of standards were wrapped up in 13C.
We only did 11, so we need to do 10, 12, and 13. It's all part of that same agenda item.
Right.
So that's part of the, that's part of the agenda, the previous agenda.
Right.
Okay.
So we would have to drop back to 10, right, Cheryl? I agree with you.
Yeah,
On
you need
doors
to-
and exterior?
Yes.
Okay. And that is on page 4 of 23,
Item number
Yeah,
13C?
13C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's not that long compared to the others. I can read it. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend alteration standards and create new alteration standards as necessary, and whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to revise alteration standards section 10, doors exterior. Now, therefore, be it resolved, January 16, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby revises and amends the following section of Alteration Standards, Section 10, Doors Exterior. 2.2, Dutch doors, split doors, and French doors may be allowed, provided any and all required permits are obtained through the City of Laguna Woods and the Permits and Inspection Office. All costs of maintenance shall be borne by the mutual member. 2.3.
Wait, excuse me. So you no longer are going to care, because it looks like it was crossed off, what color the door is? Is that what you're saying?
No, well, what they're saying is that,
Why don't we discuss that after I read the whole?
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Okay. 2.3, glass and entry doors may be allowed provided it follows the standards set for such installation as required by the current California Building Code. 2.4, door trim shall not exceed 3 inches in width unless prior approval is obtained from the alterations department. 3.1, doors shall be of natural or stained wood or fiberglass or vinyl-clad material. Painted doors shall be the body or trim color of the building or be white. 3.3, exterior doors shall be compliant with the current edition of the California Building Code. 3.4, any required irrigation or landscaping modifications resulting from the door or required landing installation must be performed by the agent's landscaping division at the mutual member's expense. Resolve further, add the following section to alteration standards, section 10, doors exterior, and 3.5, exterior doors shall only be allowed in existing openings for existing openings wider than 36 inches. Doors with accompanying side lights may be used. Section 3.6, existing header height must remain unchanged. Resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written. I move.
So we need.
Second.
do I have a second?
Okay.
Now you can discuss
Any
color.
discussion? Any discussion?
I have a question. So when it says doors shall be of natural or stained wood or fiberglass or vinyl-clad material, what color is the vinyl-clad material? What color is the fiberglass? Does that only come in one color?
No,
Or
it
could I
comes in
have
multiple.
pink?
Oh, multicolored.
Or a
Sure.
rainbow door? I could
That's-
have a rainbow door.
That's right.
No,
You could have one with glass in it.
No, but I think that, so when we're saying that doors shall be of natural or stained wood or fiberglass or vinyl-clad material, that means if I want to put in an orange fiberglass door, I can. Well,
Well-
it's not giving any, it's just saying fiberglass or vinyl-clad.
That would be a non-standard, that may go to a variance.
But this doesn't say that. This is saying it could be fiberglass or vinyl-clad material. So
Okay.
I think you need to put a color in there, because at the end, it says painted doors shall be the body trim or color of the building or be white. So I think you just need to address, I mean, and we have had requests where people wanted a red door or a blue door or stuff like that. But I think that, and also in our, I know in the three-story buildings, the doors are not the color of the body trim. They're a door color. Like we have like a beige and a whatever, and then we have navy blue doors. So I don't think it's the body trim, it could be it has to be like the designated, the color selection as per the architecture committee.
I think that we have allowed so many, this is just me talking, you got other opinions. We have allowed a variety of different colors throughout, and styles indoors.
Right,
Okay, this is trying to address the standard,
right.
but it doesn't address the color, because how do you come back and tell people you can only have red, white, and blue?
Well, the
doors?
thing is I think that if you don't, you're not, first of all, painted doors shall be the body or trim color. It's not, there's also the designated color palette. There's a door color on the color palette. So I think trim color or part of the color palette, I think you have to address that somewhere in the wording, because in the three-story buildings, they have three colors. You cut this, and your door.
Right.
I don't know if they do that in homes, but also I'm just concerned that fiberglass or vinyl clad isn't specific at all. Should the fiberglass or vinyl clad be the body trim color or white?
Well, have you been down to Home Depot to buy a new door lately?
No, but I used to when I had my house, which was
You got
5
it.
years ago.
And so when I see people going out there and buying these fiberglass doors, they come in wood grain, they come in all sorts of different
Right, so do
colors.
we have to
Are we going to,
specify?
yeah, I don't know. If we're going to, do we want to get into that?
Well, I think, could you
I'm not
get-
trying to defend it, I'm
No,
just
no,
bringing up
I
the-
think it's fine, but the thing is you could then have a pink door next to a blue door, next to a yellow door.
Right.
And I think that would be pretty hilarious in a 3-story building, all different colored doors. It's very
Yeah.
European, actually.
We've got a situations coming in the architecture committee on Thursday with a green door.
A
The
green-
green door looks very nice.
Well,
But, you know, it's a very nice green.
I just, no, but see, I think it's okay to approve the colors. I just don't think, I think that this is too loose.
Want to tighten it up? Go ahead, Bert.
I would like to propose an amendment to the last sentence within 3.1 to read, "Doors shall be of natural or stained wood or fiberglass or vinyl-clad materials and match the body or trim of the building or be white."
Okay, and again, I said, in some buildings, they have a different door color, so it's the body,
Then they have to
trim,
request a variance.
a variance?
If they deviate from this standard, they would have to request a variance.
That's fine, I just think that we should be, so then if you have a vinyl door though, and it matches the trim color, and then they change the trim color of the building, then what? You can't paint a vinyl door, right?
Yeah, you can paint a vinyl door.
You can?
Yeah.
Or, I'm not much of a door painter myself. So, okay, so if we could just tighten that up, I think that's better. And
So-
that's, you could bring that to your committee too.
Yeah, bring number 10 back to the ASCS, and then
Yep.
11's okay, right? We're not, are we going to bring that back too for discussion? Over the issue of the driveway,
Of the-
painted
Yeah,
driveways?
we said we're leaving that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, leave it.
So, okay. So we had a motion and a second. Are we just going to let this go the 30 days? and
Oh, you
then-
also-
Oh, what you, what?
You have an amended motion.
An amended motion for number 10.
And the amended motion is to make that change, or we can let the motion be dead, kill it by not voting on it, and then ask.
Well, we wouldn't
or-
vote on it anyway because it's 30 days.
Right.
But
So what we want to do is we want to revisit the motion. But that can be
if
done.
you extensively revise it, you're back to
Well,
square
I don't
zero.
think we're extensively revising it. I think he's just clarifying it.
Okay.
So
We'll see
we're
how
okay.
that- we'll ask Kurt how it,
So we have a motion to, no, we have a motion, we have a second, we have a conversation.
We
to-
don't need to vote.
We don't need to
No
vote, so we're
right.
good. All right. But we need to make sure that any amendment is available for the voting day. All right,
Did you get that? Cheryl has that.
okay.
so number 12, we've done 10 and 11, number 12?
Yeah. 12 is exterior wall attachments. That's, here we go. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend alteration standards and create new alteration standards as necessary, and whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to revise the alteration standards, Section 12, exterior wall attachments. Now, therefore be it resolved, January 16th, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby revises and amends the following section of alteration standard, Section 12, exterior wall attachments. 3.1, tile and veneer used on a vertical surface exterior wall must be attached with thin-set epoxy mortar mixers. 3.2, tile and veneer used will be limited to use on stucco-covered exterior chimneys and entryway columns. 3.3, tile must match in color, design and size as close as possible any brickwork on building existing. Maybe we should say existing brickwork. 4.0, trellis and wrought iron designs. 4.2, any trellis attached to a wall must be painted the same color as the wall. 4.3, trellis and wrought iron shall be within 12 inches of walls and not used as screen shades or shields, nor higher than wall to which it is attached. 4.4, wrought iron shall be easily removable for access to the wall for painting purposes. 4.5, all lags or screws into walls must be sealed prior to installation to prevent water penetration. Resolve further, add the following section to alteration standard section 12, exterior wall attachments, and 4.1, all trellis and wrought iron shall be mounted vertically. Resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out this resolution as written. I move.
We have a second? Any discussion?
So I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. I wrote Bill a note and he threw it away. Does that mean that I could attach anything else to the wall that I wanted? Because you're not covering it. Well, so I could put up a picture of my dog outside the house? It's an exterior wall attachment. Exterior wall. People, I mean, we know for a fact that people hang things on their exterior walls, and I'm not, Brad? There are any number of things attached to exterior walls, so we're not addressing them, we're just leaving that alone?
We certainly, if you like to interrupt,
Well, I don't think it's
I don't
allowable
think
at
we
this
would
point.
want, for instance, a religious symbol on the exterior wall of a house. I mean,
But
there's a
they're
lot
up,
of things that I
they're
could
up
think of.
everywhere. They are up.
I think it's much like pots. You know, if you have 3 pots, you're probably okay. If you have 300, probably not.
Yeah, but people have hang, okay. I have seen places where they have screwed something into the stucco and they have a hanging plant. I have seen places where they have amusing things outside their door. I've seen places where they have religious things outside, attached to the wall. So basically, we're not addressing any of that now. These are the things that we're addressing.
Well, none of that is permissible under your current rules. That's.
Correct.
Yeah.
And even if you look at that, section 4.5, all lags or screws into walls must be sealed prior to installation to prevent wall penetration. They're trying to keep moisture out. I mean, that's a lot of this
Right,
has to do with
so are
keeping
we
moisture
gonna
out.
run around and say that picture of your cat could you take it down? Because the wall, you didn't seal the screw, so if I seal it, I can hang up whatever I want? I'm not trying to be annoying,
no.
though I'm succeeding.
What you're entering into an area here of,
That
think
you
of all
don't-
the things you could hang on a wall. And if you tried to
And
make a
they're
list
all,
of all the
and they're
things.
all there.
That's right. It's not a possibility. I think it's not a possibility to
So we're
put
just,
into
we're
words
just
and
leaving
enforce.
it alone. I mean, because I remember years ago, Third used to have something where you could have had a hanging plant, but they had to be fake. Because they didn't want you must remember this, Ed, and because they didn't want you to water your plant and have it drip down on and this is in 3-story buildings, and it was like, because the worst thing is that you could have screwed it in. So we're just leaving all that alone.
Well, I think too, what's happened here and that we're missing is that every one of these alteration standards had this preamble of about 6 or 7 paragraphs. And they've all been stripped out of these to come down to the bare, and what you're seeing is not necessarily a revision a current revision to this. This is just a restatement of this without that other material in it. So this goes back to boards that have dealt with it, tried to deal with this subject in past years. And all of a sudden, we're getting this is the first time we've seen any of it, and it's bringing up all sorts of questions. But I think that they, to use a sports term, I think they punted on some of these issues and just said, there's no way we can actually codify every possibility in these.
I think you gotta look at this.
I can remember not too long ago, we had maintenance and construction and alteration telling us that you couldn't hang anything on a wall without an alteration permit, without going to alteration and getting it approved. So where are we is really the question. Is that still true?
Right, and I'll bring this up to Kurt on Thursday. I'll bring him up to Kurt probably tomorrow, or
Yeah.
when I can get to him, and just talk to him
Okay.
about it.
I
What are we
think-
gonna do?
I think what we need is, we have to put some stipulation in there about approval by the committee, because other than that, I mean, you could wind up with a lot of objectionable things, and you don't want that to happen.
Right.
So you should require, if somebody's gonna hang something on an exterior wall, it'd be subject to the committee's approval.
Right, and I know a previous board dealt with the whole thing of plants, that vines and stuff going on walls, and that's a real no-no. Having things, ivy and different kinds of vining plants going up the exterior walls, because they do damage.
There's a point between taking care of our structures and a point of not having this as a police state. I mean, because if somebody wanted to hang a religious thing up and they didn't want to hang it on the wall, they could hang it on their screen door.
That's
I
fine,
mean,
that's
you know,
internal.
but, so the thing is it can't be, bunny crossing, whatever you want to have, so I think that we really are trying to make a rule that talks about, or talks about the integrity of our structure, which means not punching holes in the wall. We're not making a social statement. Marcy, help us here. We're not making a social, nor religious, nor discriminatory statement. On this particular thing, we're trying to deal with the structural integrity of our buildings.
Yes.
That's dealing with that, but at the same time, we've got to be wary of the fact that we should be restricting certain things from being hung on that exterior wall. I do not want to see a political sign, okay, hung
But
on
you
an
could hang
exterior
it
wall
on
of
your,
the
but the
building.
thing is you could hang it on your door.
Be my guest.
Well, then you're
That's-
gonna see it,
We allow that to be in their window, okay?
Bert, the example of a political, I think that's been changed. I think we have to look into that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's SB 407, which, by the way, passed unanimously.
Oh, really?
Which is, the last thing that passed unanimously was like a veterans item or something, and they just don't pass unanimously. And it's basically because politicians want to be able to get into this community, get their message out, and also collect money. And so they set up a whole new set of rules that prohibits you from regulating that political speech. And
But that is common area we're talking about if they're putting a sign out on the lawn.
it actually, this law authorizes them to use your common area for such activities.
That says that I can go anywhere within the city and a park and put a sign up. Is that right? Because that's common area.
Yeah, I don't know if I would take it that far. I
They
think.
probably have a barbecue.
Okay.
I mean, I think we got to draw.
But I have a procedure that I'll be presenting to you with respect to SB 407 and how you might deal with some of the consequences there, which are fairly substantial in terms of people putting flyers under mats, door hangers, things like that. You really can't prohibit it anymore.
Right.
So we got to talk about how that can be reasonably managed given the current political environment.
Yeah, and you might want to think about litter, in the
Yeah.
sense that you may have recourse there with somebody.
Well, I wanted to get rid of the mulching mowers to improve our landscaping, but we may have to keep them to grind up these political signs.
That's great. Okay. Roy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sort of confused, which is my job these days. The standard, section 12, has 5 items. And what we just got through talking about is that not covered under 5.0? Which is part of the existing standard, which talks about murals and wall hangings? Is that not a general way to say, you know, you have to confine whatever you're gonna do inside the patio or the atrium? Or is that not enough?
What page are you on, Roy?
Page 17 of 23. It's the existing section 12 that we haven't amended. Does not 5.0 cover the previous discussion about hanging stuff?
You still, it limits where you can hang it, but it doesn't say you can hang it.
Right.
Or what you can hang.
Or what you can hang.
Right, but it keeps it out of view, basically.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely correct. That's
Yes.
exactly what they're talking about here.
Yeah.
Atriums and,
Right.
and internal facing patios, and this is the standard for those. So if you can see it, it's non-compliant, most likely.
So you would have a lot of, what do you call them, violations written up. If you just ran around the 3-story buildings, it would be a full-time job. So
That's why I'm hiring a guy full-time to run around.
he's not, no, he's supposed to be going around looking for improvements.
Yeah, he's not a compliance person. I want to
Right.
clarify that.
All right, well,
Okay.
okay.
Again, I'll go back, Roy, and I think these are just old standards. I think there were 47 standards or something that they've got, and they're just trying to pull the excess verbiage out of them and then reintroduce them without the excess verbiage. And all of these have been, you know, now you're looking and seeing for the first time what each of these is. At least they're all new to me, essentially. And so it's, we'll go back to Kurt and
Right.
we'll try to see what we can do.
Okay. Okay, ask her this afternoon. Okay.
Okay, number 13, fences, wrought iron. That would be page 18 of 23, and moving on to the resolution, 21 of 23.
21 of 23. This is relatively short. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend alteration standards and create new alteration standards as necessary, whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to revise Alteration Standard 13, fences, wrought iron. Now, therefore, be it resolved, January 16, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby revises and amends the following sections of Alteration Standard Section 13, fences, wrought iron. 2.4, attachment to buildings shall be lags or metal shots only, pre-drilled and sealant applied. All connections shall be galvanized or stainless steel. 2.5, wrought iron fencing may be installed as part of a block wall. See Standard Section 6 for block walls. 2.6, opening with gates are permissible. Openings may only open onto designated pathways. Openings are not permitted onto common area. 2.8, all wrought iron shall be painted in accordance with the mutual's painting policy. Black, white, or the color of the wall of which it is attached. It should be to which it is attached. If existing wrought iron fencing or gates are present on the subject building, the color of these fences and gates shall set precedents. Resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written, I move.
Second. I have-
Discussion.
Okay,
Rosemary?
does, in plain English, does say, the color of these fences and gates shall set precedence? So does that mean that if you already have a white gate on one side, you can't paint the other one black? Is that what that means?
Yes. Got to be consistent.
Be consistent. Yeah.
I don't think that shall set precedence. Is that like a legal thing? I mean, the wording, they should match. I mean, that's,
Right.
I think that they should match or something, or say set precedence and put in parentheses next to it, shall match. Because just to make it simple clarification for an everyday run-of-the-mill layperson, okay.
Okay, I'll take that back to Kurt. I think it's just wording, it's verbiage.
Yeah, but, we had everybody's eyebrows went up and their eyes rolled when we said openings are not permitted onto common area. What does that mean? It could only open into your living room.
That's right.
That's what it
Right.
means. So could we
I
need some?
believe most, not all of these gates, swing outward.
Oh, yeah.
And that's almost a fire law in a sense.
Yeah, it's exactly what came to my mind.
So
as the
where
fire marshal
would you
not
be
happy.
walking onto?
You'd be walking onto the
Lawn.
grass or,
The grass,
Yeah.
so I think
Well,
that.
that's common area.
So I think that needs some
That's common area. That's the
clarification.
problem with
That's
that
right.
statement.
that's, a lot of us do. We'll go back and talk to him.
So that one, okay, so
Yeah.
those were two questions on this resolution that,
Right. So all of these, number 13C, all of it's going back to the committee
yeah.
for rework. Okay. Any other discussion? If not, we can move on to 14. And I'm going to turn this back over to Rosemarie.
It's not 14, it's 13D. 13D.
Oh, pardon me, yeah.
Okay, 13D is yet another attempt,
I tried to
Yeah.
bypass that.
yet another attempt to update mutual committee appointments, being that we had a new board member and we wanted to make sure that he got as many appointments as he could handle.
If not more.
I really do say that I tried to balance balance it and say this one has this many and this one has this many. And so I think it's pretty balanced. The biggest thing is that we have to remember that for all GRF committees, I try to always have two people on it, at least two and an alternate. So it is your responsibility, if you're on a GRF committee, to have yourself replaced, because I am tired of hearing from GRF that we don't have the people attending. So first thing you do is to get, if you can't go, get your alternate to replace you, so just work that out. But then if you need it, the alternate is, if somebody's tied up, we just need to get somebody else and not just have one person attending the meetings, because then we get a little bit of heat that we don't know what's going on because we don't have our board at the meetings. So can we do that? But do we have a motion to approve these?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Second, okay, and now it's open to discussion. Yes, John?
Steve, you're not on this disaster control thing. You're a key player.
He said that he didn't have to be on it. I discussed it with him because we needed a strong player on M&C, because that M&C is this, not M&C, CAC, because CAC has such an impact on the community. So I discussed it with Steve. That was a big move. And because he isn't on it, doesn't mean he can't go to it. But I was overloading Steve. Nobody else was lining up to be on CAC, except for Jules. And that's such an important committee. So Steve?
I can still attend the meetings, that's not a problem. As far as being the direct representative.
Yes, Bert?
Yeah. I still participate in the Third Mutual Parking and Golf Cart Task Force, so I should be listed.
Okey dokey. Got that, Cheryl? But if it's just a little cosmetic change, So the third mutual, where is the parking? I thought parking was under,
Page 306.
Bottom one.
oh, well, yeah, because that's just really part of M&C.
That's right.
But, so we'll put you down. Anything else? Yes, Bill, you want to be on more committees? Because I didn't have you on enough.
No comment. Under energy and technology, voting advisors should be for Steve Leonard and Jim Juhan. And that, we're going to have a discussion on this in the closed meeting about this energy committee and where we're going with it, whether we're going to, because we really see a need to have representatives from all the boards on this, and so.
Well, it was requested at the president's meeting that we combine, that we have one energy committee for all of the boards.
Right, we can
So-
discuss that.
and we will
can
discuss that
the
at
pros.
close, yeah.
We can discuss the
Right.
pros and cons from a third mutual point of view on that.
Yes, okay. But we will list voting advisors, because the only other committee that we have voting advisors on is the Garden Villa Rec Room Subcommittee. They have voting advisors,
Right, and we do on architectural standards.
right? Where we indicate it. So we will just change that. That's also sort of cosmetic. All right. Yes, Bunny?
I just needed clarification, because I understood that if you are the fourth and fifth person, that those people are alternates.
You're only alternates really on GRF. That's how I had it.
Okay.
But, I mean, I just have myself listed as an alternate on architectural standards because we didn't want to have too many people there, but, that's up to, and on executive hearings, I listed them as alternates because whoever is in charge, and that be Steve, that if Bunny couldn't go, we had immediate alternates to fill in. But if an alternate wants to go, they could always go. So I tried to be pretty specific on that.
And, no, I have no issues with any of it, I just wanted to have a clarification, because I thought I heard somebody say that if you were on this list and if you're the fourth and fifth person, you are automatically an alternate. So like the communications committee, I missed the last one because I was thinking I was an alternate and someone would call me. So I'm just asking for clarification, because Bert definitely let me know that that was incorrect.
Well, I think, maybe, we could list the people as alternates. I mean, because I got a question on why is it co-chair as opposed to vice chair or whatever. I mean, these are just all terms that we use. On communication, I didn't have anybody as an alternate because communication is so important that everybody should go. It was different. Whereas on the hearings, I had us as alternates because we didn't want a resident to attend a hearing and see like 1 million board members in there. So I wanted to keep that one under control and leave that up to Steve.
Rosemary,
Yes, Bert.
I think also we don't want to have 6 board members at a committee meeting,
Right,
because, okay.
okay, thank you.
Yes, Bert.
I would like a clarification on that 6 members at a board meeting, or at a committee meeting, rather. Okay, the question I have to ask is, suppose a board member wants to sit in but will not participate. No comments, can't make comments,
Well,
can't be recognized. Is that basically still constitute an official
I
board meeting?
think it does, but we can discuss that.
Well,
I think we got to ask our legal.
we could ask our legal, I mean, the thing is to me, if somebody wants to attend the meeting and just be informed, then that's okay.
That's
It's
exactly
just
right.
that for most of our board members, it's very hard for them to be quiet.
Well,
And, it's true. You're like, whatever, but we'll find that out. We'll make sure we ask that this afternoon.
thank you.
All right, so are we ready to vote on this? With the few little modifications? All right, ready? All those in favor of this slightly amended list? All right, got that, Cheryl? Okay, good. All right, Bill, go ahead.
You're on.
Oh, 14 is committee reports. Okay, so let's, yeah, well, the committee appointments was everybody. Why, did you want to change that? No. All right, okay. So now we're up to committee reports. Number 14A, Report of Finance. Steve?
Okay, could we have slide 1, please? Okay, total revenue for Third Mutual through November 30th, 2017 was $30,478,000 compared to expenses of $26,230,000, resulting in more revenue than expenses by $4,248,000. Slide 2, please. Now we look at those same results with a distinction between operating and reserve funds. This chart shows how much of our revenue went into operations, with $16,876,000 coming in from assessments and $964,000 coming in from non-assessment revenue. This is compared to operating expenditures of $17,900,000. After backing out depreciation, which is not funded through operations, we see that the bottom line we had on operating surplus was $38,000 as of the reporting period. Chart 3. This chart shows how much of our revenue went into our reserve funds and the amount expended to date. I'll give you a second to look at that. Okay, slide 4. Through November, Third Mutual was better than budgeted by $2.1 million, primarily due to fewer outside services in reserve programs. Number 1, building structure replacement started in August, and the vendor has not yet billed for all of the completed work. Number 2, waistline replacement started in July. Number 3, waste lines. Water lines. Copper remediation program started later than expected in November 2017. Now, let me just mention on that a lot of our contracts for annual programs have already been put in place for this year. So work is already beginning. Okay, slide 5. On this pie chart, we show the operating expenses to date of $17.9 million by category, showing that our largest categories of expenses are for compensation and utilities. Slide 6, please. The reserve balances on November 30th, 2017 were nearly $29 million. To date, contributions to reserves, including assessments and interest earnings, total just over $12.6 million, and expenditures to date total just over $8 million. Additionally, fund transfers from operating surplus totaled $409,000 as approved by the board in June via Resolution 031769. Okay. In closed sessions, we reviewed delinquencies and unpaid assessments totaling $305,347, which represents less than 1% of the annual assessment budget. The board has been working closely with our collection firm and legal counsel to pursue further collection activity for unpaid accounts. We also reviewed delinquencies for fines, fees, and chargeable services totaling $153,000. The board is pursuing further collection activities such as cable TV disconnection and small claims court actions. Okay, on to our amount of leases. As of today, we're still staying in the 27th percentile for leases in Third Mutual. Okay, now on to more exciting things. Monthly resale report. I think this is really good, and I want to recap a little bit about all mutuals first. So in other words, total village. We had, in December, 87 resales compared to 70 from last year. So our monthly average through the end of 2017 was 82 compared to last year of 85. However, we are 11% up on total sales volume. So just to state that, in 2016, our sales volume was 292,200,000 compared to 2017 of 325,021,000. So once again, we're up 11%. Now to
What page are you on?
11 of 16.
So 11 of 16 is all mutuals, or is that the
Correct.
third? Okay, so
Correct.
it's all.
Now we're moving into third mutual.
Thank you.
Okay, total number sold in 2017 was 508. Monthly average was 42.3. We compare that against 2016. Total number of sales was 502. Monthly average was 41.8. So we're up 1.2%. Okay, total sales volume in 2017 was 202,277,000 compared to 2016 total sales of 173,356,000. So in 2017, we increased by 16.7% over 2016. Okay, average resale price, which a lot of people track, in 2016 was 344.8 thousand. 2016 was 397.6 thousand.
That's 2017.
2017, 397,655. We're up 15.3% over 2016.
But that, I'm sorry, that does not mean that our houses have gone up 15%. It means it can reflect the model that's sold also.
Yes, yes,
So we don't want everyone to like get one.
correct, correct. Okay, in speaking to some real estate companies recently, found that demand for our units is still very strong. We still have very few units out to be put under contract or that are in escrow at this time. So that completes my report.
I have a question. Do many, I get letters from real estate people all the time about, people are really interested in buying your unit, your type of unit. Is that a norm? Does that happen a lot?
Some people are after specific ones, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just thought we were special. No, all right. Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Great job. Okay, so the next report, gosh, is the report of the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee. And who is going to report on this? Because it isn't, it's Director Moldow, but next month it'll be Director Walsh.
Essentially, everything that was done in the Architecture Control Committee was covered in this meeting on
Okay,
the items that we talked about.
all right.
So very little more to even begin to discuss.
Okay, so then can you go to number 14C, which is the report of the maintenance, and we have a few hours for this.
Before
Yes.
we do that, Bert, did anybody follow up on this fireplace issue with the city? Do we know about that?
I have no
I
idea.
believe that's on closed agenda,
Closed.
number
That's
5G.
to be
Okay,
discussed.
so we're going to see, yeah, that's right, okay.
Yeah,
So we'll
So
talk about that then.
Brad and our attorney will report then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. M&C. Quite a lot has happened in M&C.
Don't forget the water heaters.
I was just going to say, put the rest immediately.
Yeah, right.
The
Talk about
issue-
persnickety around
The
here.
issue of water heaters, okay? Our staff has gone out and they have found a device that would satisfy finally the city with respect to the cutting off of electrical and water flow to the water heaters in the event that there's an overload and it gets too hot and it explodes. So we now have a safety device that costs less than half of the original Watts device that we were requiring people to install. Okay? Now, that Watts device, or that equivalent device, is only required if you cannot vent your hot water heater to the outside. So in my case, I just replaced my hot water heater, and I found that because my hot water heater is in the garage floor being sloped out toward the street, I did not require any device on that. That was based upon a comment or approval of the city, which was very nice for me. Okay, so for people looking to replace their hot water heaters, keep in mind that you're going to need a watch device if you cannot vent that hot water heater to the external environment. You may have to talk to our plumbing people to decide which is going to be less expensive for you. That is, whether or not you can indeed vent it by running a plumbing device or plumbing pipe through an outside wall, or whether the new device is going to basically satisfy it at less cost. That's a decision that each individual homeowner will have to make. Okay? Also, with regard to hot water heaters, we are now considering, since we have a 10-year requirement on replacement of hot water heaters, we are talking about the possibility of requiring the replacement of hot water heaters on a newly sold unit. Very similar to the requirement that we had imposed for toilets, where we now, when you sell a unit, you must have a low-flow toilet. And we feel that this is going to be a similar requirement. So, okay, be aware of that. Now for the rest, we get that out of the way. Okay, red curb removal. In fact, I'd like to have John take that on.
At the last red curb, rather, at the last parking committee, we developed a policy for repainting of red curbs. And that revised policy will be presented to MC, which is on the 5th of February. Do you have anything else to add on parking? Okay, then I'll go to Garden Villa.
Can I ask you a question, John?
Sure.
So that doesn't mean that if we had a red curb and we removed it, that if you just come back and say, I want it back, that we're putting it back? That we have different ramifications that you're looking at?
We
in that?
developed a policy to address that issue.
Okay, and you're going to present it at M&C?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, John.
Garden Villa Task Force. Bill, would you mention about 3 o'clock meeting tomorrow? Oh, Bill, oh, yes.
Yeah, we passed a policy in this board, we passed a resolution in this board for putting decals on all golf carts, and then we refined it into about 3 or 4 different decal colors. And so we're going to meet tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock in the Willow Room to discuss how we're going to implement this and what kind of a communication plan we're going to have so we can inform the community. In reading the Breeze, or I think, was it a Breeze or it was a Blast, I noticed that Mr. Baum, Director Baum, did mention the fact that we're going to require decals on all golf carts. And then we have gradations of who gets what color decal on their golf cart. This is going to be a very important discussion because we really want to get this right so people aren't really confused about what we're doing. I do not believe at this point that any money is involved. It's just a matter of making sure that we get the right decal to the right people to put on their golf cart and where they're going to put it. And then we need to be able to communicate that. And so it's going to be some work, but I think staff's pretty much on board. We're going to see what we do with that. Now we got questions on what I just talked about.
No, I'm just going to say, part of the report, this is part of a requirement that we're imposing that every golf cart in this community be registered.
That is correct.
So that goes to my question. This is Third and United.
Yes.
Correct.
So it's a-
That's right.
That's important.
So it's a,
Right. We're having actually GRF United and Third Mutual people at this
GRF
meeting.
doesn't have golf carts.
GRF needs to be
Right, Marty is-
informed. It's just all about making sure everybody's informed about what's going on.
And agrees. They all agree?
Well, we don't know yet. We're going to find out tomorrow.
I think so.
I think it will be a spirited discussion. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I just, I'm feeling sick. I don't know if I can make it tomorrow. No, it's, yeah, I think it will be a spirited discussion.
Okay. And is this an open meeting? So could.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
This
it's
is an
open
open
meeting.
meeting.
Residents have comments, they could come?
Yep.
They could. It has not, it's not been put on the, it's actually more of a, I don't know if it would be,
It's a task force.
it's more of a task, I mean, it's a
But
task force.
anybody could come, so is it noticed?
It's not noticed. It was a discussion among the staff and directors to see if we could get the resolution implemented, so it was correctly implemented.
So what you're really doing is having a planning kind of thing.
That's correct.
So then you would have another meeting where residents have to, you know.
I think
This
that's
is-
probably a very good idea, and, as part of the communication plan.
It's not a committee meeting, okay?
It is not a committee meeting.
It's a task
It has
force.
to be a task force.
Yeah.
Yes.
But would you task force meetings have to be noticed?
No.
No.
No, okay. But it's good to let people know, so if anybody wants to come, but then we would do something more official after you get through tomorrow, right?
Yeah, this probably needs a
There's an
little
enter-
more work.
Are you saying there's entertainment value that could be had
It could be.
tomorrow, Ed, by
Well, I
showing
think
up at the spirited
the
meeting?
key here is, I mean, it's got to be easy to understand and easy for our security officers to enforce.
Right.
And that last part is probably the trickiest part. And if there's consistency across the board, because GRF also has a golf cart fee associated with the use of the golf paths on the golf course. It's a little
Right.
bit different. So you got
Right.
kind of 3 or 4 things going on simultaneously. I think we can make it all work and make it much better for everyone.
Right, but what scares me about it really is the variable. There are a lot of variables with this golf cart plan.
Right.
That it's going to be confusing, and we got to get it right.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate that somebody from your staff developed it
Yeah.
with
Bert.
us and didn't get security involved, which was really, we don't want to go down that road. But, so it'll be really done right tomorrow. So I think or start right tomorrow, right? Right?
I hope so.
Yes, Bert?
I had a question for the red curb. I mentioned this to Bert. There are certain parking areas and cul-de-sacs where cars can park. There's a visitors cutout where cars can park. But it's also possible for a car to parallel park behind them. And the distance there is something like 15 feet.
28 feet.
No, not in this. I measured it. It's 15 feet, yet we don't say anything about it. And you can pull out of that anyhow. So what I would suggest is maybe you should look at the parking in the cul-de-sacs too.
We are addressing that issue. If I remind my colleagues on the board that there was a decision made for a repaint of a red curb outside a parking structure that was in LH 21, and we turned it down, and the resident appeals it. And this policy that we developed that will go to M&C will address that appeal. And then at the meeting of the parking committee, staff did a test outside this particular structure, and it was 28 feet from the parking structure to the sidewalk. Now, sure, if you put a car in there, that 28 feet gets down to 22 feet or 21 feet, depending on the width of the car. And yes, it is difficult to back out, and that's the subject that the M&C committee will address.
But my point is there are other areas that are even closer and more narrow, and cars are backing out of that anyhow. So that's something to keep in mind.
Brad, is there any way to, on my street, where 4015 is, we have had, not red line, but there is parking, sidewalk parking, and it has existed forever. And I don't want to go outside measuring it. Is it possible to have that measured? Because if that's 28 feet,
I'll bring my wheel as next week.
no, but if we could have just somebody check it, if that's 28 feet, it has worked and it has worked and worked and worked. We never had it redlined, but I know people on the other streets are envious. So the basic thing is when you, on the committee, you have to make the decision as to how to best make it work. But if we are definitely can't run through here with a can of red paint and repaint all of these red lines because that would be terrible. So if could we measure that?
We will
That's
measure that.
That's a great example, because we always used to park on the street.
We have a wheel, and Ernesto, I've got him a nice F-350 truck out in maintenance, an old one. And so whenever somebody complains they're not big enough, we send Ernesto out in the F-350 and he sees if he can make it. And if he can make it, it's determined to be
Yeah,
adequate.
but again,
So,
on
but we measure them.
On my
Yeah.
street, it has had every variety of vehicle parked on the, on this curb, near the curb, the non-curb curb. And if it's always worked, if that's 28 feet, then it's a moot point. If it's bigger than that, then it's, but I have a feeling they're all the same. Yes, Susie, and yes, then Jules.
Many of the people driving the golf carts in our community do not have driver's licenses.
Shouldn't have to.
And I'm really kind of concerned about the skill level of many of the people who do drive these golf carts. And I was wondering if we had any ability to check on that, because they can cause a hazard. And we recently had an accident that an officer was involved with one such resident.
Yeah, I suspect that when folks, and this will probably be part of the discussion, come in to register these, that they probably need a driver's. I don't think it's required, but we should certainly inquire.
Not required.
And we don't really have a system set up for this particular problem, but if somebody appears like they shouldn't be operating a vehicle, we should at least inquire and make note. But that's a concern. We have far more golf court accidents than you would be aware of, and most go unreported. It's only the very few, like the one that happened last week that I shared with you, that we really find out about.
Is there a requirement that, because one night there was a golf cart in front of me going up the hill on 14, and we know we don't have a lot of lights there, and they didn't have any rear lights on the golf cart. And I mean, I could have so are they required to have lights at night? I mean, that should be part of it, though. I mean,
Not really. I think you have kind of street legal vehicles that typically have all the lights and even seat belts and all that. Even we find that even those who have, I'll say street legal, but it's really just locally legal, that have seat belts, no one wears them. And so you can have some pretty serious accidents at 25 miles an hour, and with no seat belts on, you're looking at some pretty serious injuries, and that's what we've noted. So I think all those topics, I mean, I know we're talking about decals and licensure and registration and those sorts of things, but these are all parts of that discussion.
Tim had once mentioned that he was going to put together a golf cart driving class.
Wouldn't hurt.
No, I mean, it wouldn't hurt. So that, maybe you should put that on your disaster preparedness task force.
And we can have Director Gross maybe conduct such training.
No, I mean, well, whatever, you're in charge. Yes, Jules?
I think there's more of a
traffic guy.
I think there may be more of a problem than appears in our.
What are you talking about now, golf
We're
courts
talking
or
about
red line?
red curbs.
Okay.
Red curbs. We have a 26-foot driveway width from the post, from the carport, very much like the LH21, to the curb, which is red. It's 26 feet, and I cannot get my station wagon out, which has a really decent turning radius, without hitting the curb.
Well, I think that what Brad needs,
So-
they need to do is measure it, and if 28 feet makes it, maybe 26 doesn't. I think that's what is the responsibility of the parking committee. And then we did talk about if it's 26, that doesn't mean to say you're going to put a red line there. Maybe you're going to make it golf cart parking and motorcycle parking only, and make it pink, whatever.
No, the point that I was making is that I can't make that turn even without a car parked on the curb. So this is a problem.
Different car or park it in the.
That's absolutely true. That's
You're
what-
welcome to
that's
come to the
what-
next
That's what
committee
Bert
meeting.
tells me.
You need to go to driving school.
For people that have SUVs, for instance, there's some pretty big SUVs, it is a problem. So,
Well, and that's a really good point, because maybe with this, we have to be careful with the rules, because today, when I walked out, there was a huge white truck parked there. First of all, it was parked half on the sidewalk, so maybe with the removal of the red line and the work of the parking committee, it can be, we have to have some restrictions. Never mind you and your station wagon, but restrictions for other things that can make it difficult. I saw a motorcycle parked on the sidewalk the other day, and I didn't, that, so, okay, so,
I have a question for Bert. Yeah, about concerning this water heater, what exactly is the policy? You said, well, if a new house changing hands, then you require them to
We might.
under 10 years
Might.
or a restriction. Now, since last year or year before last, we're talking about, or Mark talking about renew, you can change the heating elements. That can make it your existing water heater more efficient and probably last longer. So under those circumstances, what will be the guideline?
changing the element is not going to make the tank last any longer, okay?
So still under 10 years?
Well, the 10 years is basically what we say, that if your water heater is older than 10 years and something happens, you are going to bear the responsibility for the repairs. Before 10 years, if something happens, it is our responsibility. That has been policy for a long time.
we did say, though, that there was going to be a written handout for somebody if they wanted to replace their water heater, that they could just go to resident services and say, can I have this information so I can decide what to
Yep.
do? So
Yes.
is there a due date on that?
I think they have something that's just about ready, but now we're tweaking it a little bit.
Right.
So we're going to make a few changes. And then this doesn't really affect this directly, but we talked about chargeable services and adding to that. And so that's part of the discussion as well. But I think.
Correct.
I think everyone has to do one of these at some point, and so having a flyer on it makes sense. And we can send it out electronically too as part of the blast.
Yeah, yeah.
So everybody has it.
Who's doing the flyer?
I want to say it's Kurt. Well, Kurt or Ernesto.
Kurt is doing it.
Well,
Yeah.
the problem is we have all these flyers floating around, and there doesn't seem to be any uniformity or consistency with how they are developed, how they're printed, what the graphics are, and we should have that. We should.
Well, I think all the new ones follow our design guidelines, or they should. That's the rule. Now, if somebody's not following it.
But we never see it in the communications committee.
Well,
and I
isn't it
think
the
we should.
Communications Committee responsibility to define it?
No,
No?
not necessarily, but we want to make sure that they're consistent.
We can certainly, we can share those.
Well, they should be shared
Yeah.
before all of this printing stuff should be done as black and white mock-ups, which are presented to the right people, and then they're approved. And that isn't happening. They're printing stuff in color, they're not doing mock-ups, they're actually putting artwork in without getting the input of the people who are involved in it, and then that either causes delay, because it takes longer to put it together like that in the first place, so we really have to work on that. Okay, so.
Can I follow up with my previous question? Now, if you say, after 10 years, the residents are responsible, but if we say on the spot of 10 years, if we say, should I tell the resident services, hey, my water heater is exactly 10 years, come replace it? What should we do? Can we, what is the policy there?
The policy there is if you come and ask us to replace it, we will replace it. And charge you.
It's
a chargeable service.
chargeable service. But the thing is that we haven't voted on nor put on the agenda yet, making this part of the resale requirement until Brad has the whole thing ironed out, because we can't say, okay, you're selling your house, we want you to get a water heater, and then somebody call and have resident services say, we're not putting water heaters in this month, because that would really drive everybody over the top. So we have to tighten up the procedure with all of the new elements and tell people again, wow, you can get a water heater now and it's gonna cost you about this much, and then move to the next thing. And then you have to decide as a group, if a water heater is 9 years and 10 months old, where is the cutoff time? So we're only trying to do this to prevent the damage restoration hearings, try to help people. So we're not there yet. Brad still has a component and Bert has a component.
Yeah, well,
to work on.
maybe that also, have Brad's resolve this, because, it would say, 9 years and 11 months now, and then do we have the choice, either even it's chargeable surface, but if I have outside plumbers.
Yes, you do.
plumbing
You always have
system,
that choice in third to use an
Is it
outside
cheaper
vendor.
to, outside plumbing, do the work with the special deals?
No,
Then we can do it?
actually, and I don't know, and that's up to the resident to find out, but when I changed mine out, it was about 4 years ago, the store had to get some kind of special permit, and ours wound up to be less expensive. And they were very efficient.
Yeah.
They did a good job, so that's up to staff to work out.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry to ask this one more time, but I'd like clarification for sure. If you have a manor alteration, if third will be covered by having service in-house.
Yeah, again, I think what Susie's referring to is a relocated water heater.
Only if you relocate. If you're just replacing a like for like or similar, and the location is the same, that's not an alteration.
Well, she's already, say one has already been relocated several years ago, and now they want another one. I think the history here has been not to work on those because it was moved from the original location. My suggestion is that we change that and go ahead and do it. Now, we may want to get a waiver or something if it's been relocated someplace where there's something we could potentially harm. But I think that's something to consider.
Well,
Yes.
we asked about this because we wanted to put it in the breeze, and staff did give us a document outlining what they would do or what the procedure is for water heater replacement. But then when I heard there's going to be a replacement for Watts, I held it back. So there is some documentation, and we should ask staff for it again if you want to do it more formally and go over that so we can let the residents know just what they have to do to replace their water heater, who they speak to, what staff will do, and what their options are.
Well, those are really the two big changes here. One is you've got an alternative to the Watts device. And quite frankly, the Watts device itself has kind of messed up our program for a while, I have to say. And then the other is these so-called alteration water heaters, which is really just a relocated from their original position. It's not an alteration as you would typically think of it. So, and I'm suggesting we go ahead and work on those, and in some circumstances, if it's very complicated, maybe get a waiver on that.
Okay, so can we fairly or calmly expect to have this at our next M&C meeting?
When's your next MNC meeting? I don't see why not.
February 5th or something like that? What did you think we were going to say, tomorrow?
We could
No.
probably have a three-color trifold with that, too.
No,
We should
no,
have
that's
it.
all right. Okay, so, all right, so Bert, do you have anything else?
Oh, yeah.
We
lots
spend
of
all
things.
the time on
I was
water
just going to
heaters.
comment about the hot water heater. I just replaced mine. And we have come up with a brand-new hot water heater that is all stainless steel. It's quite impressive, and it's actually equivalent or even a little less than the water heaters that they have been using. And I used I used our own people to reinstall it, and they were terrific. Okay? And
Did you buy it from staff, or did you buy it on your own?
I bought it from staff.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm not sure yet whether staff even paid for it, because I know where it came from, Super Green. okay? But they're the ones that came up with this hot water heater, and staff essentially,
What size?
I had a 50-gallon tank, okay? And following what we did for our own laundry rooms, I realized 50 gallons is far more than I would need, and so I reduced the size to 40 gallons.
And actually, that should be part of the write-up that we have, giving ideas recommendations to people
Yeah.
about the size that we have to have.
Yeah, the recovery on these new units is quite a bit better
Quite good.
than the older ones.
And the energy efficiency is also significant.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
Bert, are you saying that our in-house labor charges are very reasonable?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Good to know.
Okay,
Very
so-
competitive.
All right, keep going, Bert.
okay.
You have
Um,
10 minutes.
We have learned that, I talk about the inadequacy of our electrical infrastructure, and staff has now prepared an RFP to go out and find a consultant that would serve GRF, United, and ourselves, okay, to look at our current state of the infrastructure and come back and make recommendations on how we might improve our energy efficiency and how we might potentially even think about generating our own electricity and doing our own distribution. So we'll look at the economics of all of that, and that's coming. And I think that's a good move on our part, since our infrastructure is 50 years old. We've got things coming with electric cars that is going to place greater demand on our services. Right now, we can only charge EVs at 120 volts, and it takes so long. So we would like to upgrade that as well. Okay. Over a year ago, we were trying to solve the address problem on buildings, and we thought that if we would get solar lights to put over the addresses, that this would help us. And so we did a pilot. We put in, I think, 20 different solar lights on various buildings and various geographic locations, north, south, east, west, and generally found out that it just was not adequate. So those lights are on these buildings today, and we have basically said, when the building is going to be painted, we will remove those lights, but not until then. Okay?
Is that it?
No. We're still looking at the laundry room dryer replacement, and we asked staff to come back and provide additional information comparing coin operation of the dryers versus using a debit card system. We'd like to get away, if we can, from having to send people out and collect coins, because that adds to the overall cost. So we're now waiting for staff to return with that specific information. With the building address signs, since we found out that the lights don't work, staff had come back, and we were looking at these foundation signs for building addresses. And unfortunately, these things were running $500-600 a sign. We felt that that was pretty much excessive. And so what we have done is, both Steve Leonard and I have found a few alternatives, which basically are posts with reflective numbers, or, I don't know what to call them, stakes also with reflective numbers. In the case of the stakes, the numbers have to be added, and we've debated that, and we realized that we can go out and go to a handicap area, where handicaps work and do work, and ask them if we buy the stakes, which are very inexpensive, whether or not, they could put these numbers on for us. So we're pursuing that. And right now, we've decided where we want to put 18 of these numbered signs. And I believe Steve has asked purchasing, with the cooperation of Ernesto, to go out and buy these signs. They're very inexpensive. The stakes are like $5 a piece. Both are PVC, very easy to install, and we're hopeful that within the next month or two, we'll have those signs out there. We'll see how they work. Bunny, would you like to do the Breezeway presentation?
Sure.
and push the button. The latest is that we have received the first draft of our PowerPoint and reviewed that. Just came in yesterday, so we will finalize the presentation and have a meeting sometime this week to go over the format of the presentation. But I was really pleased with what the landscape architect came up with, you know, as far as that presentation. It's going to be very professional. So that is the latest. We expect, as soon as I receive the final, we will set a meeting sometime this week, you know, to go over the format for the presentation. But I have a very positive feeling about it.
Why don't you tell us about the presentation? When is it?
The presentation, I handed out brochures at the last M&C. It's going to be on the 24th, but this is going to be mainly, okay, for the 3 buildings that it impacts. So will be videotaped. So if they want to watch the YouTube, they can do that. But it's mainly for the 3 buildings. And Susie is working on possibility of having a bus that would take the residents to the meeting. We want to encourage them. We're also offering refreshments. So.
Okay, thank you, Bunny. Bert, is there anything else? Yeah.
At the last meeting, when we talked about breezeways, a resident got up and brought to our attention the fact that Portland cement concrete can be a heat sink. And as a consequence of this program, it was his opinion that the temperatures would be raised significantly in the breezeways and in the building itself. And Ernesto had, his comment was, well, yeah, that could be. So Steve Leonard did some analysis and came up with a cool seal product that if you paint that onto the Portland cement concrete that we're putting in, it will inhibit the raise of temperature. And if that product works, it's a hell of a good idea. And so Bert sent out an email saying he thinks we should include the installation of the cool seal. And the point is, we don't know, is there an engineering evaluation that proves this thing works? And if there is, I would strongly recommend that we direct the $150,000 3-building project, to have a change order to include the cool seal, if in fact the temperature will be raised. And
Okay, I agree that that came up at the meeting, and it also we need the expert opinion, and Bert sent information out, and we need the expert opinion of staff as to whether this is not necessary, whether or not it is, and Brad needs to be involved in it. Okay, so.
Can I make a comment about that?
Yes.
Okay, I had talked to Ernesto right after, this was brought up, and his opinion was basically that there's not that big of an issue with the heat, but he was also going to look into this product to see if, to research it, to find out what the cost is, and to see if it is really something that we want to use.
Correct.
So
it's in staff's hands.
So my thinking is that we wait until staff brings us the information, and whether really is a big difference in the heat, which seems to be the issue, before we direct staff to do this process.
Agreed.
Correct. Therefore, again, when it was brought up to Ernesto didn't think that it would be a big issue.
Right.
So, and then information was sent to him, and we need the expert advice of the staff.
Right.
Right.
All right, is there anything else, Bert?
Just going back to Ridge Route security. Okay, we've asked the staff to look at the possibility of reprioritizing the installation of the Shepherd's Crook to that area off of Ridge Route. It's just a matter of changing the plan as to where we were going to be installing the Shepherd's Cook, which is a program that we've instituted that'll take the next 10 years. Okay? That's it. And the next meeting of M&C is February 5th.
Will you be back then?
No. No. Bunny,
I've been asked to chair, and I've agreed to do so.
Well, Bunny is the co-chair.
Bunny asked me to chair.
Okay, so Bunny passed the baton to John.
That's right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
okay?
All right, so the next is report of landscape, Director Tung.
Thank you. Well, I guess, I always try to make a landscape report more colorful. Look at the three colors. Well, what I want to say is, look at the past 3 years comparison. Obviously, the number of tickets last year, 2017, is much higher than the previous 2 years. That is probably at least part of the reason is we're short of a manager late last year, short of supervisors. Now, that's why I want to say, as Brad reported earlier, now we promote one of the supervisors to become the manager, but we're still short of one supervisor. So hopefully in the very, very near future, that by once filled up those steps, then we can do better. In fact, the number of tickets in the last December last year already drastically reduced because the staff been working very hard to close many tickets. But soon, hopefully next month, I can show you the number of open tickets versus number closed. So we start monitoring our staff's efficiency. Okay, okay, now, yes.
I thought that landscape wasn't using tickets, that there was this
Well, or
disconnect.
they have the numbers, they have the, like, your manor numbers.
So this
Just
really
number-
represent manor numbers.
Yeah, just in other words, you have say five manors, you close 4, so that means that, I meant by their tickets, yeah.
Okay, so these are closed work
No,
orders?
those are just open.
They're
We
still
don't know
open.
How much it closed, but based on their last December's number of tickets, we can tell it's a lot of being closed.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but I don't have an exact number. Hopefully soon we'll have that. Now, one of the active pilot project is the so-called soil sensor pilot project. Basically, it's because right now, in our community, entire community, we only have one weather station. And that sense control the amount of water we irrigate our grass. So we feel that's kind of maybe too gross. That's why we wanted this, in order to be more accurately reflecting at the different areas, the amount of water grasses needs, we have this project. But look at this so far. See, the top 4 pictures shows the where area, gate 11, gate 14. In this particular case, is gate 11, that where we have the sensor, soil sensor, but if you look at the grass, compared to the bottom one is nearby grass without those sensor. Apparently, with the sensor, although we save some water, but appearance of a greenness or the healthiness of grass is not necessarily good. So we're still in the process of evaluating this pilot project. We started April last year, May last year. We're going to finish until April this year. That way we sort of sampling the low water season versus high season. And to tell you the truth, we actually look at the field where they have the sensor, and then some of the yellowness maybe because near the edge of the sprinkler. So all those details, we gotta, working with the staff to say, we gotta be very, very fairly to sort of evaluate this project. But I just want, so far, the result is not very encouraging, although we have not fully sort of give up yet. Next one will be the similar in gate 14. Again, shows similar thing, closer, better, but still, we're still in the process of evaluating.
Could I make a comment on that, James?
Yes.
It turns out that there's a hiccup in this program. We thought that by giving the UGMO folks an incentive to reduce the water, rather to reduce the sprinkling and the irrigation, and that there would be some significant savings. Hiccup turns out that we've essentially created an incentive for those folks to not water to reduce the water, and therefore we're not getting as green a grass. So I asked Bruce, is there some kind of a metric that we can measure before we allow savings? And there isn't. So it's going to be a judgment thing.
Yeah.
And before we allow any savings, we have to decide, is that grass green enough? And I guess that's up to the landscape committee to decide that.
Well, we got more work to do because that's not an easy judgment. You know, we try to be fair, although so far the result is not encouraging. Okay, the last point I want to make is landscape is trying to improve the efficiency of their work. One thing they did is they create a new GRF landscape maintenance crew that takes care of the golf courses, so that regular crews for Third Mutual and United can be concentrated on their individual work, not distracted by the GRF work. And also they try to field staff more accountability, increase the field staff to increase efficiency. Okay, that's all I have for the.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
I have further comment on landscape. It turns out, we had a request for a person who was saying that their neighbor was a yellow stake over there.
We should not discuss this in open meeting. It's a closed.
I'm not going to discuss it. I'm going to tell you the fact that Bruce Hartley has put together a yellow stake program to address that issue. And my question to James is, when are we going to agree on this policy? At the next?
John, that is on the agenda for closed. Because it's on, didn't you read your closed agenda? The thing is that because there were certain issues in it, so we have it on the list. It's actually 6D. And they actually handed out a new handout like last night or something. Okay, so the next thing is the report on the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings. Director Zhao.
No, I did that. I did that. Let's see, we had 9 violations, 2 for speeding, and 2 for stop signs, and 2 for RV problems, and 2 for expired DMV. We found one of the, and 1 for vehicle storage. We found them not guilty. And we found storage in the vehicle. We found them not guilty also. And it turned out that, I could give you the reasons why we found them not guilty.
No, that's okay.
But anyway, so that was the extent of it.
Thank you. Okay.
The meeting on tomorrow is James, Jules, and I'm going to be playing golf tomorrow.
Okay, the next is a report on the Communications Committee. Bert.
Thank you. We met on January 10th, that was Wednesday. We're changing when the meetings are going to be held. They're going to be held on the odd month, so January, March. The next meeting will be March 14th. This is on a Wednesday now in the afternoon at 1:30. At this meeting, what we wanted to do, as we do in every meeting, we go over how we're reaching out to all the residents, and this includes the new residents. And we do a few things there. We write them a letter, we have phone calls, and we try to measure what the response is. We also have docent tours where you can take a bus, and this is not just for new residents. I would recommend, if you're relatively new or if you're old and you want to get a good bird's eye view of this community, to take the bus. I think there are 2 of them that leave on Thursdays, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. There's a general information number, 597-4200, that you can call to make an appointment, and they'll take care of you. As there are also new resident orientation meetings that are given by each one of us monthly on Friday mornings. I'm going to give one on the 19th, so here's your big chance. But we also have them every other month in the evening, on Wednesday evening. And again, you could call that same number to find out how you can make a reservation to go to this meeting. And one of the things also related to new residents is we are working on a new video. We're not too happy with the one that we have now, which will really give a shorter, but we think a more interesting introduction to this community and make people glad that they're living here if they weren't to begin with. The other thing that we've looked at, we brought this up too, are all the flyers and information sheets that are handed out, and it's a fantastic number. We have at least 40, but I think there are many more than that. And we have to get some uniformity and knowledge about what we're handing out, who it's going to, what it says, and does it make sense. So it's kind of a helter-skelter system, so we would like to create some order out of this. And the last but no means least is probably our most extensive way that we have to communicate with you. It's called the Village Breeze. We have a really thick issue this time. You can find out all you ever wanted to know about this community. Each of the mutuals has a section. We have one, and it appears monthly. You can get it online, and you can go to our website to see it and also subscribe to it. And we're interested in people's feedback from this. What do they want? What do they like? How useful is it? And one of our leading members of our committee, Susan, is going to have a discussion group in the library focusing on the breeze, but also generally on communication. This is a pilot effort, and we'll see how that works. But we, again, want to reach out. And the other thing we ask is if you want a board member to come and speak to your club or organization, get in touch with me, and we will arrange for that so we can tell you firsthand what we're doing. Thank you.
Excellent, Bert, thank you. The report of the Energy and Technology Committee, Director Walsh.
Thank you. There was no meeting in January, but there are a couple of things that are in progress, and one of them is the walkway lighting over in gates 5 and 6, the pilot. The fixtures have been installed, apparently, according to Ernesto. U.S. Energy, who did the installation, is still adjusting the fixtures, and they're going to let us know when and where we can go see those to see which are the most effective LED lighting fixtures. This is all part of trying to come to a consensus on which lighting fixtures are going to be best for the walkways, and then going out to bid to find vendors who can supply those fixture types and getting bids from them. So we get a reasonable price on these. So hopefully, by tomorrow night or Thursday night, some of us who are so inclined can go out and have a look at some of these fixtures to see how well they illuminate the walkways. The other thing that's happening, Bert touched on it, that we have an RFP for Third going out to energy consultants to deal with our situation here, a 50-year-old energy infrastructure. Hopefully they will come back and when whoever we hire will be able to help us with new technologies that we can overcome some of the shortcomings that we have with particularly a 50-year-old electrical infrastructure. And so just to let you know, our next meeting is on Wednesday, the 7th of February at 1:30 in the afternoon. And the energy meetings are on Wednesday afternoons every other month on even months. So we do not conflict with the Communications Committee. And that's all. Do I have some questions here? Go ahead, Bert.
I think you also point out that we've changed the day. In the past, we've been conflicting with the GRF meeting, and since we are now adding a GRF member to the committee,
Right. Yeah.
we've changed that day. The other thing is there a way in which you will send out an email, or Ernesto's going to send out an email to the board indicating where these lights will be?
That's what I've asked him to do, essentially, you know, is he's going to let us know.
Thank you.
He's going to let me know, and I'll let everybody know.
Yes, we have
Thanks,
some directors who live in Gate 6, and they had questioning looks in their eyes.
Well,
I haven't seen any lights being put in.
well, they won't be, you know, there will be one or two of them, just to see how they will. But they're not near location. We don't know where they are right now.
Okay.
We haven't been told where they are. But we'll certainly let you know, Roy.
Please.
They
Yeah.
didn't put them in front of your house.
Right, right.
That's where it's most needed.
Right. And Bert, thank you for bringing that up about the committee, because
Keep tripping over stuff.
the Energy Committee, the Third Energy Committee is the only energy committee between GRF United and Third. And we've invited representatives from both the United Board and the GRF Board to join us. And there has been a suggestion that we just turn this energy committee into a community-wide energy committee. And so we'll be discussing that this afternoon in the closed session. Thanks, Bert.
Thank you, Bill.
I have a further comment on energy.
Yeah, John.
Bill, we've got a conflict. The same time as your meeting on February 7th is the Vehicle and Mobility Committee for GRF. I'm on that committee, Bert's an alternate, and Roy's on that committee. So we're going to have to go to mobility and vehicles, and will not be. I'm on the Energy Committee, but I can't make it because we have to.
Right, was that a standing committee? Because when we chose that date and time, they looked at calendars and there was no meeting in that time period. Is
Look at
that, you know?
15E.
Well, the thing is that we'll work that out. I mean, this month, we're leaving it the way it is, but we'll have to work it out for the future because Cheryl is
We
the-
had to move mobility and vehicles because another committee went to every month instead of every other month. And so then that conflicted with vehicles and mobility. So whenever committees make changes, it's kind of like a domino effect.
So you're saying the Mobility and Vehicle Committee will not meet on February 7th at 1:30?
No, it was on Monday, the 5th, but we had to move it to Wednesday because of another conflict on Monday.
The MNC probably.
So the thing is that, again, we'll have to keep it the way it is for February, because I think.
Yes.
Yeah, but then Cheryl could look at the calendar and work with both committees to iron out a correct date, a workable date that doesn't have conflict, okay? Does that work? Okay, so the next is a report of the Water Committee. No meeting, right? Was there a meeting?
Yeah, but we still have updates.
Oh, I know, but you didn't have a meeting, but you have
Didn't have a
updates,
meeting.
right? Okay,
Every other month.
all right.
Okay, the first slides, I don't know whether you can see it very clearly, but maybe
No.
I'll just emphasize the important points that at the bottom of this figure or spreadsheet, well, you will notice that our high-tier water bill is getting higher and higher. Last year, actually the year before last, or two years, the high-tier bill is mainly come from a residential side, and we were able to reduce them to about a couple $1,000 at the times. But last year, not only our residential part started climbing higher. You can see the November, October was in the 5,000 range in both Tier 3, Tier 4. But also, July, August, our irrigation part is really high too. Now, I started noticed 2-3 months ago, so I asked Brad and I talked to Raul. So now they finally said, well, because there were some old pipe leaking, they have fixed quite a bit. So you can see that in August and July, the higher tier water bill for irrigation is more than a couple $1,000. Now, last month, November, they has been reduced to just a few $100s for Tier 3, barely 1,000. Of course, I'll have to continue pushing them. Now, on the other side, the residential side, as a Juice and I and Mark Stahl, we're working very hard. There's a 3-4 of those higher, the building higher tier is pretty high. So we're gonna have to send them a letter again. And in fact, sooner or later, we need to come up with a policy. How should we penalize those constantly, have a higher tier water bills? Of course, the current problem is in the Gate 11, we know who did it because they have their own meter. However, on those Garden Villa building, there's multiple users. So we need to talk to our attorney. Can we say if this building have more than three times the high tier water bill, can we just penalize entire building? Everybody take an even penalty. Can we do that? So that's the part we have not penalized the Gate 11 people. Otherwise, they say it's not fair. You only penalize us, but not the rest of the people. So we have to come up with some sort of a compromise policy in order to save water. Now, see, each month it's like $10,000. That's like a water money. The money thrown in down the drain. Do we want to do that? If we can save narrow those high bill to zero, we save $10,000 a month. So that's just money thrown away. So we have to do something. Now, recently, I guess as a Jews and I, we try to try to determine, because we try to help the staff. If the building is 24 units, a Garden Villa building, if there's no leaking, then they don't have to check in all 24 units. So for that reason, Juice and I, we constantly go look at the water meter, see whether they have leaking or not. Now, it just happened, I want to show you this colorful picture because last month we couldn't find the water meter for building 3015. So I couldn't find it, Juice couldn't find it, so finally I had to ask Dennis from El Toro Water, and he sent me this picture. And of course, now we find that the water meter, and it's turned out to be no leaking. Did you have a chance, Juice, to look at it?
No.
But anyway, it's really hiding under within the grass, so not easy to find. Right. But now I know the location. I found that there's no leaking. So that's a good thing. But then there are about 4 buildings that still have a high bill. We got to send them a letter. before we come up with a new policy.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's all.
Director Baum, Resident Policy and Compliance Task Force.
Yes. We are going to have a meeting, this.
Soon.
It's going to be next week, and everyone is invited.
And we don't remember when next week it is?
It's
You said
on-
everyone,
It's
so
on
you don't care if
Thursday.
it's more than
No,
five
not-
people?
No, this is an issue. That's why I'm very cautious about that, okay? Just a minute.
This got to be added to the agenda for this afternoon's meeting.
It's gonna be on the 25th. And it's going to be at 1:30 in the Cypress Room
25th January
of January.
in the Cypress Room.
Yeah.
Okay,
You should have received a notice if you were.
It's on Team Up.
Okay. Okay.
okay, so now we're gonna have GRF committee highlights, and it would be up to you if you attended the meeting to work out with the person who is also on the committee as to who is going to present. So who has anything to say about community activities?
I do.
You do, and you
Yes.
have your notes.
Yes, I do. This time I have my notes. And there is a lot to report.
Okay.
Marcy indicated a number of items that were gone over by Brian. The Holiday Festival show showed an increase in participation by the residents. There were over 300 in attendance. The Christmas dinner sold out. The New Year's Eve concert sold over 1,000 tickets, and the New Year's Eve gala sold out. The Recreation Department reported, as Marcy indicated, over 260 separate events. There were over 120,000 rounds of golf and over 300,000 gym visits. Several members of the Auto Club again spoke in favor of an auto hobby shop, which would be a building that contains a couple of bays to work on their cars, and at least one facility for washing the cars, since we can't presently wash the cars. The only question the committee had, and which hasn't been answered, is whether this was a popular enough idea to support the substantial amount of money that would go into it. I can say I'm doing my own private little survey. I prepared a questionnaire, and I'm going to distribute it in my cul-de-sac just to see whether it works and to see whether we can get any kind of response. Somebody came up with the brilliant idea of using Granicus as a way of developing responses to surveys, since all you have to do is to punch your email in and you're online, which is a great idea. This is a topic that is only in its first stages. Stay tuned. Following a report by Danny Henson, the committee adopted a resolution appointing the Western Bluebird Club of Laguna Woods Village as the sole club to maintain all the Bluebird boxes. They've now already built and hung 60 boxes, and he's going full force. Bluebirds is a threatened species, and they have very specific requirements. So you have to have just the exact right size hole for their boxes. So this is really quite a benefit for the village and for the Bluebirds. The committee approved the design for construction of a Clubhouse 2 Veterans Memorial, leaving the existing memorial in place at Clubhouse 1. They also approved a proposal to move the children's swim from Clubhouse 2 to Clubhouse 6, so to not to interfere with apparently there are a lot of lane swimmers at Clubhouse 2. We'll see whether there are a lot of lane swimmers in Clubhouse 6 shortly. Upcoming events, the Chinese New Year event at Clubhouse 3 is rapidly selling out. There are close to 500 seats that have already been sold. So if you want to get there, this is the time to buy your tickets. Pat Boone will be here on February 14th. Remember Pat Boone?
The
With
real
his-
one or his?
The real one.
Do we have to wear?
White buck
White
shoes.
The real one?
With his
Oh my
white buck
gosh.
shoes.
How old is he?
And now he's apparently is going at the Performing Arts Center. I understand that Pat Boone once refused to co-star with Marilyn Monroe because he thought it would interfere with, it would compromise his beliefs. I don't know what he believed would happen on the movie set. But he's going to be there, and he has claimed that this is going to be his last hurrah. So anyone that wants to see Pat Boone and his white buck shoes, now's the time to do it.
What was it, February 14th?
It's February 14th.
Valentine's
Yes, Valentine, well, it's going to be a Valentine's Day program, I assume. Winding the clock forward, we have decided, or Recreation has decided to advance and bring back the Village Games in the spring. Apparently, there'll be more activities in the spring. So that's going to run from April 8th until April 30th. They also note that there were minimal comments on the increase in the golf fees, which means that their communication was really good. Catherine freshly revived an earlier suggestion that the golf fees be increased by $4 and put in a separate reserve to redo all of the greens. She pointed out that if this had been done 5 years ago, would have cost $1.5 million, and now it's going to cost $3.5 million. Sean gave a demonstration of what is underneath the beautiful green lawn, and a lot of it is rock-hard stuff. It's really remarkable, which is why there's the hope at some point to redo all of the greens with, new drainage and things, but that's going to cost a ton of money. My personal observation, since I've been on that committee, every single monthly meeting we have is more involved, there's more participation, there's more people coming, there's more board participation, and the staff deserves a real shout out for their preparation and for the work they do. The next regular meeting of the GRF Community Activities Committee will be held at 2 p.m. right here on March 8th.
To add to that committee, our meeting, I think I've said this already, the meeting, the corporate members meeting on the 30th regarding pickleball, it's the 30th at 9:30, will not be a meeting where we're voting on pickleball. It will, and a note was supposed to go out, but we didn't get it yet. It is a meeting where the need for or the non-need for pickleball and different ways to handle it will be presented at that meeting. So it's a very important meeting for us to attend. It's a corporate members meeting at 9:30 in this room. After that, there will be a meeting where you will be able to vote on it. So for those of you who won't be in town, we'll make sure that we get a set of the information for you to peruse if you're not back in town. And then there will be official voting, et cetera, but we don't have the date of that yet. It's important. All right, so Finance Committee?
We haven't met yet, we'll meet in February. But if I could, I'd just like to add 3 more things to the CAC.
Oh.
For people who are interested in silver sneakers, there was such a response. They're going to start another class, so check up on that. And for club presidents, the next meeting is on February 7th in the boardroom at 10 a.m. And anybody interested in garden plots, there's less than 5 people on the waiting list now, and just a few of them to get up to standards.
And that is incredible, because the truth is that we had this endless waiting list, but I think it was like a mess, So the staff has done a really good job of getting that organized, because there were people who would be on the waiting list for years. And so it was not organized, so Brian and his team have done a good job of getting that better. So now finance, do you have anything to say other than when the next meeting is? No?
Nothing
Okay.
at this time.
All right, so anything to report on maintenance? A lot of these things who have meetings in February, that means that they didn't meet in January. So is there anything to report on any of these meetings? Yes, Bert?
Absolutely not. They did not meet.
Okay, so media and communications, now that, Roy did that. Do you have something you want to report, Roy?
I certainly do.
Good.
Met with that committee yesterday. I was the only representative from Third.
And we know that, and that won't happen again.
Well, it was fun, so I enjoyed it. Had no problem attending. They talked about, or we talked about the transition from analog to digital. And I don't want to repeat what Brad has said, but I do want to mention the fact, because we may get some feedback on it, that 11 channels, 11 analog channels are going to be relocated to digital numbers, digital channels between February 5th and February 8th. And so we may, and other channels will follow during the course of the year. Basically what they do is they clear out the analog channels in order to make room, as Brad explained, for the digital channels. There will be crawls underneath the old channels to let people know where they went. And there's also information in the Breeze and the Blast and all of our communication methodologies that will help folks understand where these things went. They also, Chuck presented the fact that individual members can request additional channels to the lineup. There was one gentleman who was in the audience, he spoke. He wanted the committee to approve including the Pac-12 channel, which apparently he's a fan. One of the things that people I don't think understand is, yes, you can add channels to the lineup, but there is a cost, and different channels cost additional funds. This particular one cost $90,000 a year. So if you want to know where the money goes, that's where it goes. But requests should be submitted to the GRF Communications Committee. One other point that he made was that the Italian channel has just been added, as apparently a lot of people requested it. I'm not sure what's on the Italian channel, but opera, in which case it, and cooking, absolutely.
How much did it cost?
He didn't say.
How great.
The Chuck also gave an overview of the broadband services financials, and happily, expenditures through November 2017 are below the budget for this time period. Actual year-to-date expenditures, $4,301,015. Budgeted was $4,420,564, with a positive variance of $119,549. So again, in the black. Contract renewals. Everybody wants to know what happened to Channel 5. According to Chuck, the negotiations are still going on, but he's not very hopeful. And the committee heard suggestions as to how people can get Channel 5. If you can stream it, if you're are able to access high-speed internet. It's also possible to buy a digital antenna or which you can put next to your TV set and pull it in. But, you know, things don't look good for Channel 5. There are 4 other contracts that are up for renewal in 2018, and the big one is NBC Universal. And if we can't come to an agreement on a price with that one, that's going to make a lot of people unhappy, because that's your Olympics and a lot of sports, as well as CNBC and the other news channel there.
MS Rachel Maddow.
Yeah, that's the one that Rachel's on.
MSNBC.
Let's not be political here.
No,
We
no,
just have to just
absolutely
calm.
not. It's a channel.
Is Rachel Maddow political?
Thanks, Bill. The Game Show Network and Showtime and the Multimedia Commerce Group, which includes the Jewelry Channel. Yeah, I know. That's up for discussion. Broadband subscriber counts, Chuck reviewed those. I think the most interesting thing for us, particularly on our own communications committee, is that as of December, as Brad mentioned, we have actually 9,569 units in this community that have high-speed internet connection. And that's about 75% of the total. So when you're talking about reaching out to folks and getting the word out, bear in mind that at least 75% of our folks have the capability to go out and look at our website, which is expanding and getting better all the time. And that was the next subject of discussion was we've got 2 new additions to our website. One is called the Thrive Program. And this program consists of videos of interviews with members of our community who talk about how they are thriving in this community. And it's very interesting to watch. You go out and click on the URL and it takes you to YouTube and you can watch these interviews. The other section that's going to be added is called The Scoop. And it right now in the current edition of the website, it includes talk about the pickleball issue. And so these are 2 new areas that are going to be expanded. Thrive, it could very well, Bert, become a vehicle for, as another way of orienting new members. It also becomes a vehicle for marketing. And that was one of the interesting things. Laurie reviewed our outreach statistics in terms of all the things that we're doing with the orientation meetings, the OC Register, speaking engagements by VMS staff, and the weekly email communications, as well as our web stats. And one of the things that fascinated me about our web stats is, yes, the major concentration of hits are here in the Laguna Woods area, but we're getting people from pretty much all over the western part of the country taking a look. And that's good news, too, in terms of, advertising, marketing, getting the word out as to what a great place we've got here. Agenda items for the next meeting, which is on February 19th at 1:30 here in the boardroom. New logos for broadband services. The resident portal. This is one of the great things that we're in the process of taking step by step to develop. And a resident portal allows residents to do all kinds of things online in terms of interacting. And it requires a lot of bandwidth. And so even more important to get rid of the analog channels because they sap bandwidth 14:1. And then the last thing on the agenda is TV Everywhere. I don't know how many of you know what that is, but it's a Comcast, a Verizon offering where in fact you can have your TV come into a central unit and then it can blast out to your cell phone, to wherever you might be, to your laptop, to your iPad, to your, and it's an offering which, again, requires bandwidth to do. So Chuck is going to take a look into that and see if that can be added to our rollout of the VR program. Thank you.
I just have a question which you might bring at the next meeting, is they talked about having something either in the computer club or in the lobby where people could get a feeling as to how to manipulate our new website, and because the new website was supposed to be easier, et cetera. And they also talked about the fact, we talked about this, is that the new website is translatable, but if you can't read English, you can't read on the screen where it says, hit this for Chinese or Mandarin or Italian or whatever. So Brad committed to because James volunteered, to having a few people who speak different languages to go on to the TV channel and say, blah, 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 whatever. And this is how you can translate the website by clicking this button, but saying it in their native tongue or their, and so I haven't seen, he sort of forgot. So there are two things. Number one, learning how to use the new website and how could that be done? Because we should let people know that. Where to find it, how to use it, and also language. Those are some key things. I mean, because a lot of people have internet, but they do it for FaceTime with their grandchildren, and they do, or they use it to shop. My mother-in-law used to just use it to shop on QVC. That's all she did with it. So we have to try to get that done.
Yeah, yesterday, the committee did discuss, I know Steve Leonard, who's one of the advisors on the committee, was pushing this notion that we really ought to take a look at the current website, even though it is vastly improved, to make it easier to navigate. And so there was a great deal of discussion about that. You know, where's YouTube? How do you find it?
Right.
How do you go to the YouTube videos?
But in the meanwhile, we could try to show people.
Well, that's right. That didn't come up. I'll bring that up
That's why I
next
gave it to you,
All
so
right.
you could be a genius at the next meeting.
push it.
All right, thank you. And then, is there anything else? Are we done? No. Any reports on Mobico and vehicles, security, disaster, no, nothing? Are there any more reports? Okay, so it is 1 PM. You're all probably starving to death. At this time, the meeting will recess for lunch and reconvene to executive session in the Willow Room. Thank you all very much. It says, I'm reading this, it's recessed. I'm reading the exact words that Cheryl put down here. This will recess for lunch. Thank you.
So what is this thing?